Okay, we have under a minute, everyone. If you could please all put yourself on mute. And for those in the public, if you could please turn off your camera, that would be awesome. Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the Easthampton City Council meeting for Wednesday, January 20th, 2021. The meeting tonight is being recorded and broadcast live via Easthampton Media on Charter Channel 193 and live streamed on Easthampton Media's YouTube channel. As always, we thank the great team over at Easthampton Media for their assistance in broadcasting this meeting. All counselors and participants in this meeting are gathered remotely via Zoom conference application. Remote public meetings during the COVID-19 pandemic are the result of an executive order by Governor Baker on March 12, 2020, allowing us to do so. I remind both the members of the City Council and of the public to remain on mute until recognized by me to speak. Also, to members of the public, and I mentioned this earlier, but as a few more have come in, please keep your video turned off. If you decide that you want to participate in public speak, you can go ahead and turn it on at that time. Also today, because of some business that we need to conduct today, we're going to limit public speak to 30 minutes. We do have a public hearing at 6:15, so we'll allow public speak until then. Once the public hearing is done, we'll allow another 15 minutes or so of public hearing, and then we're going to close the public speak, sorry. All right, I believe that is all. We will now call the meeting to order. Barbara?
Peg Coniff.
Here.
Salem Derby.
Present.
Erica Flood.
Here.
Omar Gomez.
Here.
JP Kaczynski.
Here.
Tom Peak. Dan Rist.
Here.
Lindsay Rothschild.
Here.
Owen Zaret.
Here.
Thank you. We'll now rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the
to the
flag
of the
of the United States of America
and
to the republic
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible.
with liberty
with liberty
and
and
justice.
justice for all.
Thank you. I will take a motion to approve the minutes of January 6, 2021.
So moved.
Second?
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Barbara?
Peg Coniff.
Yes?
Salem Derby.
Aye.
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
JP Kaczynski.
Abstain?
Erica Flood.
Aye.
Tom's not here. He's still not here. Dan Rist.
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild.
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Yes.
Okay. We will now open up public speak. As I indicated, we will be limiting it to 30 minutes. Each individual will have 3 minutes to speak. If at the time you're speaking, the timer goes off, I'll let you finish the sentence you're on, but then we need to move on. Remember that you are directing your comments directly to the City Council, and that we ask that you remain respectful. If you would like to speak, I think we're kind of all used to how we do this now. Select the participant options at the bottom of your screen, and then click raise hand at the bottom of the participant window. Before you comment, please give us your name and your street or your town, especially obviously if you're not in Easthampton. If you would prefer to give the district or the precinct that you reside in, that's okay too. You will have 3 minutes. I have a timer up here. And as I mentioned, we have a public hearing at 6:15. So at 6:15, we'll have to take an intermission on public speak. So those of you who have raised your hands, for some reason, it's not showing up on my participant window. Dan, do you see them on your participant window?
I do. Kay
Okay.
Collins. Go ahead, Kay.
Good evening, counselors. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Kay Collins. I live at 4 Carroll Ave, Easthampton. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of AKINE 01027, and he is not enough. You will hear specific questions and statements from a number of group members this evening in reference to issues in the community that we have been working on since our founding shortly after the death of George Floyd early last year. In addition to asking for concrete change rather than symbolic demonstrations of anti-racism, we have grown into an organization that is stepping forward to take action that directly benefits residents of the city of Easthampton. On this historic day where we watched the first Black South Asian woman sworn into the second highest office of the land, we would like to strongly remind you that the work of dismantling systemic racism does not end with a historic first and a new administration. We recognize the steps that you are taking tonight, but we urge you to dig deeper and learn more and work harder to listen to your community to truly create a welcoming and equitable city, and one that looks below the surface to find the gaps in support for people in need. Thank you.
Thank you, Kay.
Do you have them yet, Peg?
I don't.
Jen Markey is next.
Hi there. My name is.
We can barely hear you, Jen. Can you turn up your mic volume? You can do that.
How does this sound?
That's better.
All right, great. My name is Jen Markey. I am a resident at 45 Ridgewood Terrace in Easthampton. And I am going to read, I was going to read the second half of a statement, but I'll read the first half now. Since the murder of George Floyd and the beginning of the COVID pandemic, AKINE has worked tirelessly for transparency and accountability in our local governing body. Before I read this statement, I want to say I hope that all of us white folks are continuing to do anti-racism work. There's a lot of unlearning and relearning to do. Here are a few urgent and concerning issues that have been identified about how the school district has been handling remote learning. Specifically, I would like to address the issues around access to information, internet, and school lunches. We have learned that there are significant barriers preventing families from learning how the district is handling remote learning, especially families where the primary caregiver is not a native English speaker or doesn't have reliable access to the internet. At the last school committee meeting, we learned that there are at least 1,033 absences that have been waived. It's clear that there are so many kids and families that are falling through the cracks. According to the U.S. Department of Justice and Department of Education, it's up to the school districts to determine which families have limited English proficiency and then, quote, must provide effective language assistance to limited English proficient parents, such as by offering translated materials or a language interpreter. In communication with parents, email updates are exclusively written in English right now, putting the burden on families to speak up and ask for translation. Allison stated in her email update to families, which was dated the 15th of January 2021. If you would like to get support for any of these issues and you are not a native English speaker, please contact our Diversity and Engagement Coordinator, Cindy Mojica. She is happy to help with conversations in your native language. How does the superintendent satisfy the law that EPS communications, including family updates, must be communicated to limited English proficient parents in a language they can understand? The school employs an interpretation service, but very few families know about it, and it's clearly not being used for regular communication. And I'm going to stop there and say thank you for your time.
Thanks,
Thank
Jen.
you, Jen. I have Tim Wallace and Vicki Elson next.
Thank you. My name is Timon Wallace. I am living in Northampton, but I'm representing the Nuclear and Carbon-Free Future Coalition of Western Mass, which includes people in Easthampton. And I first of all wanted to thank the City Council for your initiative about this time last year. I think it was introduced by Councillor Rist to pass a resolution calling on the federal government to take a stand on the nuclear weapons issue. And we're very grateful for Easthampton for doing that. And our group has been holding the Hiroshima Day events every year on August 6th or 9th at the ponds in Easthampton. And we're very grateful for support that we get from the people of Easthampton. And I'm here to thank and show my support and our group support for the mayor's executive policy order about taking this another step forward for Easthampton. It's a very exciting moment. We're waiting for New York City to pass a resolution divesting New York City pension funds from the nuclear weapons companies. This was all set to happen right before COVID started, and now it's been delayed, but I think that's going to hit the news very soon. And as many of you may know, the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, which we've been campaigning for the last several years, enters into force in 2 days from now, after having the 50 countries ratify this treaty. And so there are things happening all around the world and around the country and around the state. And we're very grateful for Easthampton to be part of that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Timon.
Thank you. Eric Poulin is next.
Hi, everyone. Eric Poulin, Precinct 2. Happy Inauguration Day to you all. I guess the transfer of leadership on a national level has me thinking about leadership on a more local level this evening, and some great examples of leadership that have occurred in our community, as well as some further opportunities for leadership amongst our leaders. So I'm here to echo and give my thanks to the members of A-Kind who have gone out into the community and provided leadership and recognized needs amongst people in our community, particularly lower income people who may not have access to technology, who may not be able to access meals for school children. A-Kind really stepped up and filled that need. And I look forward to hopefully school administration filling that gap, and the city council also picking up the torch for that leadership. I'd also like to thank Councilor Rothschild for her leadership with the letter to the editor that she sent to the Gazette last week. I can't speak for Councilor Rothschild with what her intent was, but I can say that I did actually sign a petition that hundreds of other Easthampton residents also signed, asking, recognizing that in the insurrection 2 weeks ago, a large proportion of law enforcement officers from various communities around the country participated in it. Now, while none of us, I believe, and I'm speaking for myself, I'm certainly not accusing, would never accuse members of our police department of supporting white supremacy or being present and participating in the insurrection. I think it's pretty low-hanging fruit for, and a real leadership opportunity that Mayor Alberti is missing out on, to make a statement to say, we don't support white supremacy. None of our officers were there, and we will work with our community to make it a safer and more inclusive place. I think it's a simple statement that would go a really long way in making a lot of people feel more safe and more comfortable in their community. The flip side is, and the concern, and I'm not saying that this is a possibility, but if there's no statement that comes from our police department denouncing white supremacy and ensuring us that no members of the department were there, why is that? I'm not saying that they were there, but it does leave a question of why this statement hasn't come out. I could assure you that, I mean, in my profession, my professional associations all spoke out about what happened on January 6th. And there was no, to my knowledge, there's been no widespread evidence of librarians or college professors taking large part in the demonstrations. I think Chief Alberti could go a long way in helping members of our community feel safer. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Eric.
I have Jean Francis next. We have 2 minutes left, Madam President.
Okay, Jean.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I was going to read the first part of what Jen read, but I'm going to read the second part now. And also, I'm going to sort of reiterate some of what Eric just said about the school lunches. And I'm going to read this. I might repeat, but I'm going to try. Okay, so part of our recent communication with A-Kind, Jean Francis, I live in Precinct 2. Recent communications focused on the new rules around lunch pickups. After talking with community members, it came out to our attention that folks that typically relied on the school meals for their children are not able to access it, largely due to issues of transportation. Currently, A-Kind is picking up the slack, but this is not sustainable or appropriate for a long-term solution. This responsibility lies with the school, and should that be better addressed that should have been better addressed months ago and should be addressed now. The city has a moral and legal obligation to ensure that all students in our district have access to meals. Okay. Additionally, we have been made aware that several students have been struggling with school due to lack of reliable internet, where the school claims that they provide internet to all that are that ask. The hotspots that they are offering are not reliable, and often students must miss classes due to inability to log on to into the Zoom. We urge the city council to investigate alternative internet connections for these students. We know that through email communications with ACON, the superintendent, the city council, the school committee, and the mayor, Nicole, have known about this emergency of these issues since at least December 20th. It is now a month later, and we have yet to see meaningful official action around these issues. As more data continues to show the growing educational gaps in Easthampton for economically disadvantaged kids, students with disabilities, and students of color, I urge the city council, the school committee, and the school district to develop thoughtful, targeted strategies and solutions to remove the barriers that continue to prevent students in Easthampton from accessing their education and their meals. Additionally, since these educational gaps are part of a large systemic issue within the school system, these strategies should extend beyond remote learning and focus on assuming that these students always have that all students always have the tools to succeed despite changes in our learning environment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jean. I will now, we're going to pause public speak until the public hearing is over. I will take a motion to open the public hearings.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second to open the public hearings. Any further discussion, Barbara?
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski.
JP?
Aye.
Okay, Erica Flood,
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild, Owen Zarrett,
Yes.
Peg Coniff.
Aye. Public hearing is now open. The first item on the agenda is a utility pole location request. Councilor Zarrett.
Madam President, if I might, can our citizens public speak, lower your hand so we know if you're wanting to ask a question about the public hearing at this time. When we open public speak again, you can raise your hands again, of course.
Thank you, Councilor Rist. Okay. Councilor Zarrett.
Thank you, President Coniff. This item specifically is a request from Eversource to install 2 jointly owned poles along Main Street on either side of the road to supply electrical service to KC Tactical. The location of these poles is approximately 118 feet westerly of True Heart Drive. The property committee met on December 16th to discuss this, and I'd say generally we voted 3-0 to approve, but we had questions for Eversource, and I see that Nick, and you'll forgive me, sir, if it's Langone or Langoni. I saw that he is here today. The only real question we had is whether there are provisions, and I believe this was answered in an email, whether there are provisions in place to allow for future expansion from the municipality. Specifically, we're thinking about municipal broadband. There is language in here for fire and police telephone signal, but we just wanted to make sure that the poles are installed with expansion capabilities for municipality, or is that something we would have to request? And
Nick, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. There you go. I can't hear you, Nick.
Hello.
Now we can hear you.
All right, City of Easthampton. Sorry I couldn't make the last town meeting for this, but so as Mr. Zarrett just said, these poles on Main Street looking to refeed that building. Currently, that building is fed through an environmentally sensitive area behind the building. So we're looking to bring that to the street to make it more accessible. And to answer your question, yes, the town will have the ability to fiber, municipal fiber. We always try to accommodate these projects with the town and work with them when that project does come to fruition. It's a pretty easy process and it's pretty affordable. So when that
We lost him.
Yeah. You're fading in and out,
Madam
Nick.
President, Madam President,
Yes.
just a point of information, since the communication was broken up, would you please ask him to repeat himself?
Yes.
for
as
the
he comes
record,
back. Absolutely.
I think critical pieces were missing.
Nick,
all right, where did you lose me? I'm sorry.
I think after you started talking about you always make available municipal fiber and cable on the poles, then we lost you.
Right, so these are going to be 45-foot poles, so there's going to be plenty of room for you to attach with your fiber optics. And Eversource as a company always works with the municipalities. So,
Okay. I presume that was, I think you ended, Nick, because you kind of cut out, but the last thing we heard was you work with municipalities. So if that was the end, then that's cool. Councilor Zaret, do you have any other questions for Nick?
First of all, President Coniff, can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah.
Okay, my screen froze. No, I don't. I think that Nick answered the questions of our committee satisfactorily. But I would defer to members of the committee if they had further questions.
Any other city councilor have any questions, either of Councilor Zaret or of Mr. Langone? Raise your hand if you do. Not seeing any. Okay, shall we move to a vote then?
Members of the public, Madam.
Oh, members of the public, you always get me on that, Councilor Riss. Thank you. That's why we make such a good team. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak to the utility pole issue? I'm shocked. Okay, Owen, do you want to make a motion? Owen is frozen.
Owen,
Give me one of those kind of nights, I think.
obviously we need to improve his internet connection. Owen, is there another member of the committee that could read the motion?
May we present this at a later time, since
You
Councilor
can
Zaret
just
doesn't
read it off the application or even on the agenda,
Okay.
starting
Dan, or who's on the committee? The property committee? Lindsay or
Nope.
not anymore? You're not on property anymore.
Would be
JP?
myself and JP.
JP, why don't you go ahead and read it and we'll make that a motion.
Would you care to pull it up? So,
I can go, President Khan, if I can go ahead and read that from the agenda. If
Excellent.
you like.
Thank you, Councilor
Thank you.
Flankus.
start it to install.
So I make a motion to approve permission to install 2 jointly owned poles on Main Street, 1 on each side of the road, beginning approximately 118 feet westerly of True Heart Drive.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the installation of a pole or 2 poles on Main Street. Any further discussion? Councilor Kwasinski.
did that language include the reserving the rights for municipal uses, as is typical?
That information is on the paperwork from them.
I just didn't hear it, and I didn't know if it was read, and I wanted to be sure that we quoted that language and included.
It's up to whoever made the motion and the second. Councilor Rist.
I'm only going to say that the application is sufficient language. I think the motion is to accept the application.
Mhm.
So I believe that if the application is accepted in the motion, then we don't have to worry about whether or not we read that into it.
I like your ruling, Councilor Riss. Thank you so much.
All right. We'll take a roll call vote then. Barbara.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Aye.
Erica Flood,
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret. We still lost Owen.
Yep.
Okay. Peg Coniff
Aye.
and Salem Derby.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next on the agenda are a number of supplemental appropriations. I will turn it over to Councilor Rist.
Just so you know, Madam President, keep an eye out for Owen. He texted me that he's logging back on. His computer crashed.
Okay. Thank you.
The first supplemental appropriation is a $1 million appropriation from free cash to 3 stabilization accounts. So that the public is aware, our stabilization accounts are equivalent to savings accounts. These stabilization accounts roll over every year. They're not subject to free cash judgments by the Department of Revenue. They stay in their particular accounts, and it makes our city look stable, to use the word, to any bonding agency or anybody concerned about our fiscal health. These stabilization accounts will hedge our budget uncertainty in the future. Just so you're aware, after we move money into these stabilization accounts, in general stabilization, there will be $3,425,594. In capital stabilization, there'll be $1,888,825. And the tax rate stabilization account is designed so that we can use it to hedge against tax increases occurring because of the override for the school. So we're putting $100,000 towards those tax increases using this money. If anybody has any questions, the mayor's here, as well as Val, I'll answer if I can.
Any counselors have any questions? Anyone from the public have any questions? I don't see any. Dan, do you?
I don't have any questions.
No, do you see any hands up?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I forgot you don't have that capability.
Everything's going crazy today. Okay, go ahead.
Welcome back, Councilor Zaret. So I should make a motion, Madam President?
I think that's a great idea.
I move that the full council approve the following appropriation. The amount requested is $1 million. From free cash, $1 million to Fund 84, General Stabilization, $600,000. Fund 85, Capital Stabilization, $300,000. And Fund 88, Tax Rate Stabilization, $100,000. To fund general stabilization to provide ability in the current environment, to fund capital stabilization to meet capital needs, and to fund the tax rate stabilization to help reduce the impact of debt exclusions on the tax rate.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the supplemental appropriation for stabilization. I have a question, Councilor Risk. You had mentioned the total that would be then in general stabilization and capital stabilization. Do you know the full number that will then be in the tax rate stabilization fund after you move this 100,000?
Only 100,000. We took the other 100,000 out when we did the budget.
Okay, thank you.
This year.
Any further discussion? Barbara?
JP Kaczynski,
Aye.
Erica Flood,
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
I'm abstaining just because I didn't hear the full discussion. Otherwise, I'd support it.
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
Motion passes.
The next appropriations are established by the Department of Public Works, and our DPW head, Greg Nuttleman, is here to answer your questions. The first is a request of $25,000, which the DPW contracts to fix the fire department floor. There is a concrete floor in the apparatus bays where there's a 70-foot trench drain system, and the concrete around these grates is falling. The grate framing is deteriorating and they're loose. It presents a safety hazard to our fire personnel. And we certainly don't want someone injured because when they're loose, someone could trip and fall into these holes. And of course, the chief is here if you have any questions, but this is an urgent repair, and the finance committee did approve this. Greg is here if you have any questions, or the chief.
Does anyone on the council have any questions? Councilor Rothschild.
Just a quick question. I was wondering if this repair needed as a result of ongoing kind of deterioration, or if it was some kind of incident that created the situation.
It's ongoing deterioration. The fire trucks come back in from being on calls with, you know, road salt or debris on them, and it gets onto the grates, and that's just caused them to, over time, just rot out.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Any questions from the public? Not seeing any. Councilor Rist?
I'll therefore make a motion that the full council approve a supplemental appropriation. The amount requested is $25,000 to be transferred from free cash. $25,000 to be transferred to the fiscal year 21 fire department floor repair. $25,000 repair is needed on the concrete floor in the fire department apparatus bays. A 70-foot trench drain system is located along the apparatus bay front doors. The concrete around the drain grates is falling and the grate framing is deteriorating. This allows for drain grates to become dislodged if they are stepped on and presents a safety hazard.
Second.
Motion and a second for the supplemental appropriation to repair the fire department floor. Any further discussion? Councilor Rist? I'm Barbara.
Erica Flood,
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Hi.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski.
Aye.
Motion passes. Councilor Rist?
Next appropriation is a DPW request from Enterprise for water meter replacement. We do this every year. The $50,000 is used to replace mostly older meters and to update other meters for radio control. They're about $250 each. We do this every year to maintain the integrity of our meter system so that we don't waste water. Greg is here. I'll go again if you have questions on this.
Councilors, do you have any questions of Mr. Nettleman? Anyone from the public have any questions on this supplemental appropriation?
I see no hands raised.
Councilor Rist?
I move that the full council approve a supplemental appropriation of $50,000 to be transferred from enterprise retained earnings to be transferred to fiscal year 21 water meter replacement, $50,000. For the following purpose, the Water Division replaces approximately 250 water meters annually. Cost per meter varies based on size and type. A standard residential size meter with integrated radio reading capability is approximately $200.
Second.
Motion is second for a supplemental appropriation for FY21 water meters. Any further discussion? Barbara?
Tom Peak,
Did we lose Ben?
Tom. Okay,
Tom?
Tom. Okay, Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Hi.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Aye.
Erica Flood.
Aye.
We got Tom back yet?
I don't see him.
Okay.
Motion passes.
Next appropriation is a $10,000 appropriation for DPW odor control tank. They smell. The wastewater treatment plant currently pays a monthly rental fee of $125 for a tank to store odor control chemicals. We purchased a new tank and we don't rent anymore. It has a much longer life than the payback for this. It's like a 6.5-year payback, and the life of the new tank would be 20 years. It's a much more efficient way to control. Again, Greg is here to answer any questions, and the Finance Committee did approve this.
Any questions from the counselors on the money for an odor control tank, which I personally think is critically important, but that's just me. Oh, look at that. Counselor Flood and then Counselor Rist.
Yeah, Counselor Riss, can you just review the cost savings on that one? I just, a rental versus ownership. Once again, you said it's a 20-year lifespan on these?
Yeah, I did some math. If you take the $125 and try to divide it into $10,000, you need 6.5 years to pay it off. And Greg has said it's a 20-year life for the tank. So we on the Finance Committee felt that renting is a waste. I don't forget, Greg, it didn't include maintenance in the rental either, right? So if you could expand on my answer, Greg.
Yeah, it really is just, it's a way for us to store more chemical, and in the long run, it won't, it will result in savings to the city. So that's why we felt as though we should put it forward this year to try to get that purchased.
Great, thank you. Yeah, thank you for that clarification.
I saw Owen's answer.
I had the same question and it was answered. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Rist. Anyone from the public have anything they would like to ask on this particular supplemental appropriation?
I see no hands raised.
All right, Counselor Rist.
I move that the full council approve the supplemental appropriation of $10,000 to be transferred from enterprise retained earnings, $10,000 to be transferred to FY21 odor control tank account, $10,000 for the following purpose. The wastewater treatment plant currently pays a monthly rental fee of $125 for a tank to store odor control chemicals. A tank can be purchased and installed for $10,000.
Second.
Motion and a second for a supplemental appropriation for an odor control tank. Any further discussion? Barbara.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Yes.
Erica Flood,
Aye.
Tom Peak,
He just came back, so I don't know if you probably want to abstain, Tom. You weren't here.
Yeah, I'll abstain. Sorry, guys. Internet is a problem.
Yep, it is. Okay, motion passes.
Moving on, I have an appropriation of $93,000, $21.74 from enterprise retained earnings for the return and waste pump replacement. We have some existing return and waste pumps at the wastewater treatment plant that are obsolete and replacement parts are no longer available. I think they're 50-year-old, if I remember our conversations, Greg.
Yep.
And the new ones have a life of 20 to 30 years. So we really should have replaced this 20 years ago. Anyway, we certainly want the pumps at the wastewater treatment plant to work. If you have any questions, Greg is here.
Anyone from the council? Counselor Zaret.
So I think, first of all, I just overheard Counselor Rist say that the lifespan of these new pumps is 20 to 30 years. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And
Greg said.
And what's the current balance in the account that this is coming out of?
Okay, the enterprise retained earnings account, I was going to mention this. After all of these funds that we're pulling out tonight, there'll be $1,588,649.26. The enterprise retained earnings account, for the public's understanding, is similar to the stabilization account, only it's in the enterprise account. It rolls over every year and is typically used for capital expenses and repairs in the water, sewer departments and the DPW departments.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Any questions from the public? Not seeing any. Counselor Rist.
I move that the full council approve a supplemental appropriation of $93,021.74 to be transferred from enterprise retained earnings, $93,021.74 to be transferred to the fiscal year 21 return and waste pump replacement account, $93,021.74 for the purpose of repairing the existing return and wastewater pumps at the wastewater treatment plant, which are obsolete and replacement parts no longer available. These pumps are essential to the operation of the wastewater treatment plant and to meeting the city's discharge permit requirements.
Second.
Motion is second for the supplemental appropriation for the return and waste pump replacement account. Any further discussion? Barbara?
Lindsay Rothschild. Lindsay.
Aye. Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Yes.
Peg Coniff.
Aye.
Salem Derby.
Aye.
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
JP Kaczynski.
Aye.
Erica Flood.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Dan Rust.
Aye.
Motion passes.
The
Councilor
next appropriation, again from the DPW, is a $30,000 appropriation from enterprise retained earnings. It's for the 20-yard roll-off containers, new ones. These are used for grit disposal and dumpsters. We pay a monthly rental fee, again, of $350. It's a 7-year payback. And this will help us by having more of these dumpsters to catch up on cleaning. I'd like Greg to expand on this. My notes are sketchy, Greg, so let the council know further what this is about.
So we get the grit dumpsters at the wastewater treatment plant. They collect solids that the plant can't process, whether it be mostly it's rags or flushable wipes that aren't exactly flushable. And when that dumpster is not emptied every month, we pay a $350 rental fee to have Waste Management's dumpster at our facility. And purchasing our own dumpsters will eliminate that fee and also allow us to have a second dumpster on hand for disposal of catch basin cleanings. We need to do more catch basin cleaning to meet the requirements of our MS4 stormwater permit, and having our own dumpster here for that will allow it to fill over time and be able to decant, because we cannot dispose of the catch basin cleanings while they're wet. So it just sets us up to be able to work more towards complying with some of our permits and saving money on the rental fee, having our own 2 dumpsters.
Finance Committee approved this 2-0.
Anyone from the council have any questions? Anyone from the public have any questions?
I see no hands raised, ma'am.
Councilor Rist?
I move that the full council approve a supplemental appropriation. The amount requested is $30,000 to be transferred from enterprise retained earnings, $30,000 to be transferred to the FY21 20-yard roll-off container account, $30,000 for the following purpose. The wastewater treatment plant rents a dumpster for grit disposal and pays a monthly rental fee of $350. Purchasing dumpsters will eliminate this fee. The additional dumpster will also be used for disposal of catch basin and sewer cleaning debris that cannot be discharged into the treatment plant.
Second.
Motion is second for supplemental appropriation for 20-yard roll-off containers. Any further discussion? Barbara?
Owen Zaret.
Yes.
Peg Coniff.
Aye.
Salem Derby.
Aye.
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
JP Kaczynski.
Yes.
Erica Flood.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Dan Rist.
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild.
Aye.
Motion passes. Councilor Rist?
Last supplemental appropriation, I think. Yes, the last one we have is a $20,000 appropriation from enterprise retained earnings to replace the door replacements at the Daly Field and Headworks at the Daly Field pump station and the wastewater treatment plant Headworks building. They are exposed to corrosive conditions of sewage, etc., and they need to be replaced. They are damaged. Greg, you want to expound on that?
Yeah, I mean, they're original doors from the construction of the buildings in the 1970s. And
1970, right?
Yeah, so they're basically they're steel doors with steel frames, and the raw sewage, the presence of the raw sewage in the building leads to a very corrosive environment. So they've just, over the years, between that and the salt that the staff will drag in on their feet when in the wintertime, has just led to the frames of the doors just completely rotting out to the point that we're having a lot of difficulty even getting them to stay shut. So we just need to get these both the entry and exit doors on both buildings replaced.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions from the counselors? Any questions? Counselor Zaret?
Actually, and I thought about this with the fire department too, but so are there technologies or materials that we have available now that we didn't have available when these doors were originally installed that are more resistant to the corrosive properties of the liquids that they interface with?
Well, really, the best thing we can do on the doors, at least on the headworks and daily field buildings, is make sure we paint them every couple of years. So we'll just try to make sure we do a better job of keeping them painted and keep it from getting to the point that it's gotten to. So as far as the the drain system at the fire department, unfortunately, we looked into some other newer materials to build the drain system out of. However, the weight of the fire trucks, most of the composite or poly materials that we could use for the drain grates and structure will not take the weight of the fire engines. So we basically need to reinstall what's there and just try to do a better job of keeping it rinsed out in the winter months, keeping the salt off the steel, basically.
Thank you.
Any other counselors? Anyone from the public?
I
Counselor
see
Rist?
no hands raised.
Okay, go ahead.
I move that a supplemental appropriation be approved by the full council. The amount requested is $20,000 to be transferred from enterprise retained earnings, $20,000 to be transferred to fiscal year 21 door replacements at Daly Field and the headworks. The exterior doors at Daly Field Pump Station and Wastewater Treatment Plant headworks building are rotting away due to their age and corrosive condition.
Second.
Motion is second for a supplemental appropriation to replace the doors at Daly Field and the pump station and the wastewater treatment plant headworks. Any further discussion? Barbara?
Ed Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Yes.
Erica Flood,
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild, Owen Zaret.
Yes.
Motion passes.
One last comment, Madam President. I mentioned the other balances in the other accounts. At the end of the night in free cash, we have $126,015 left. So we've moved most of the free cash we had into various projects and accounts. And I'll move that the public hearings be closed.
Second.
Motion is second to close the public hearings. Any discussion? Barbara?
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Aye.
Erica Flood,
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Ed Coniff.
Aye. Public hearings are now closed. We will now reopen public speak. Those of you who would like to continue and or have a comment, please go ahead and raise your hand. And Councilor Rist will let me know who is next.
Myra is up first.
Okay, go ahead, Myra.
Can't hear you, Myra.
You have, hello, apparently you've stopped my video.
Yes, we always turn off the video. Let me turn it back on for you. Oh, I apparently can't. I apparently have lost all of my capabilities here.
I'll try to do it.
Okay.
I think you have to do it, Myra, at your end, because all I can do is ask you. All right, there you
Okay.
go.
There you go.
Okay, perfect. Well, anyway, good evening, counselors. I think you had a fine example in internet issues throughout your meeting. So perhaps you have a bit of an example of what some students are going through. I've prepared a little bit of a talk, and it only takes me 2 minutes and 18 seconds. So I won't take too much of your time. So I'd like to say, in relation to Easthampton Public Schools, I would like to thank the City Council for fulfilling its role and scope to engage in oversight, seeking answers to critical questions directly from administration, specifically Superintendent Allison LeClaire. These steps help to build trust in knowing that there is a degree of transparency and balance of accountability. As there are many questions and concerns shared by parents and residents like myself. As a community, we know that this pandemic has brought about unprecedented dilemmas that require proactive nimbleness to identify and resolve both anticipated and unforeseen challenges on an ongoing basis. It is important to acknowledge the complexities of education during the pandemic and commend the flexibility and the creativity that has been likened to designing and assembling an airplane while simultaneously traveling aboard. While we can celebrate that feat of engineering, design, and ingenuity, it is also critical that we, residents, administrators, and councilpersons examine and accept that in some cases, despite the craftsmanship, there are safety belts missing, and many vulnerable students have been injured, as evidenced by the failure rates among students classified as economically disadvantaged and students of color in Easthampton. I would like to take the time to specifically thank our elected officials, City Councilor Omar Gomez, Councilor Lindsay Rothschild, and School Committee Member Shannon Dunham for their commitment to outreach, displaying genuine concern for residents and students in the community. I would like to specifically thank them for taking time going house to house to hear experiences and challenges expressed by constituents in regards to education. And I do hope that this council will continue to display sustained interest and continued levels of oversight within its scope to ensure that there is necessary funding, provision of nutrition, adequate staff, student support, and technological capacity, as well as infrastructure and access. Thank you.
Thank you, Myra. Councilor Riss, before we continue, can you please verify that I am set as a co-host? Sorry.
It says you're the host.
Okay. All right. Having technical difficulties, I'm losing all of my capabilities here, so I apologize in advance. So we'll continue on. Go ahead.
Liz Perry is next. Liz, we can hardly hear you. Liz?
I haven't begun speaking yet, Counselor. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Apologize.
That's okay. Hello, my name is Liz Perry. I live in Ward 3. Tonight, I wanted to use public speak to praise Counselor Rothschild on her op-ed that was printed in the Daily Hampshire Gazette on January 13th, entitled "Counselor Wants to Hear from Local Law Enforcement." Within that op-ed, Counselor Rothschild calls to the law enforcement leadership to speak out against the insurrection that takes place at the Capitol building on January 6th. She also affirms her support for the Black Lives Matter movement. During this formidable time, it is reassuring to witness an elected official speak out against the events that took place on the 6th and in support of, as she worded it, the dismantle of injustice. In the counselor's article, she wrote, "The silence is deafening. I've heard nothing from local law enforcement leadership as regards to the seditious acts on January 6th. I did a quick Google search to see if I could find a strong condemnation statement from a police chief somewhere else in the country. I did not. What I did find was the revelation that officers from across the country participated in the storming of the Capitol. Police unions reaffirmed their support for President Trump. On January 10th, ACON sent a list of demands by email to the counselors, the mayor, and Chief Alberti to publicly acknowledge the association that EPD had with the Western Mass group Correctional Officers for Trump 2020 that chartered a bus to Washington, D.C. on January 6th. To guarantee that no member of the EPD participated in the insurrection, and to promise an investigation if any evidence of participation surfaced. We did not receive a reply. We did not receive a reply from Councilor Zarrett or Conniff to inform us that they were co-authoring a resolution to condemn the insurrection that took place on January 6th. We did not receive a reply from Chief Alberti expressing any condemnation of the events that transpired, even though it is stated in Zarrett's and Conniff's notice of resolution that they have his support. 10 days without an acknowledgement from our elected officials is unacceptable. How do you plan to fight racism if you ignore the voices of our Black and Brown community leaders? After reading Councilor Zarrett and Conniff's resolution, I feel a little disappointed. It does condemn the use of racist symbols, but does not specify what symbols are being referred to. Will it include the thin blue line flag? Will Councilor Zarrett publicly admit that his gift of such flag to the police and fire department was a mistake? It condemns any government officials or agency involvement with the attacks on January 6th. It does not specify what actions are being taken to ensure that no Easthampton government official or person working in an Easthampton government agency had any such involvement, or even if there would, or even what will be done if such involvement is uncovered. After 10 days, a public guarantee has not been made that no EPD officer participated in the insurrection. The resolution that is being presented today is full of nice words, but we know that actions speak louder than words.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you. All right, next.
Caroline Cushing is next.
Okay, go ahead, Caroline.
Hello, Carolyn, Main Street, Ward 4, picking up this theme with some background. There were many strange and obscure flags and symbols on January 6th. They weren't really meant to be understood by the general public, but they were assigned to like those looking that violence, neo-Nazi sentiment, and white supremacy were the operating principles. And a thin blue line flag was also seen in the crowd at the Capitol, and on at least one insurrectionist who reached the Senate floor with the zip tie handcuffs, prompting authorities to investigate if the handcuffs were meant for abducting lawmakers. The meaning and intention behind this version of the thin blue line that emerged in 2014 has been contested. The flag reportedly, some people believe, serves as a sign of support for the police, but as it began appearing at rallies of white nationalists, most infamously at the violent Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, more and more have recognized its association with violent white supremacist action. Recognizing the flag's divisiveness, the San Francisco Police Department has banned its display, for example. And what does this flag signal now that it has been carried by a violent mob that sought to overturn a legitimate election and use the flagpoles and fire extinguishers to attack, beat, and kill the police themselves at the Capitol? Its association with violence against our institution becomes undeniable. If we tolerate the flags and symbols, we signal the white supremacist violence and attacks are tolerated. As we move forward to begin to repair what shattered on the 6th, we need our institutional leaders to decisively, forcefully, and repeatedly in this environment reject any symbol, language, or act associated with white supremacy and violence. This kind of leadership is necessary always, but particularly urgent when we are in a society faced with so much disinformation. This may seem like a national problem that we don't have power to fix, but no, we know we are the microcosm of the country because of our problems at the high school. Recruiting flyers for white supremacist groups have been found around Easthampton. White supremacists are they attempt to recruit and infiltrate the police. This is well documented. So we can assume they're trying here. Although I prefer to think that these groups have not succeeded in recruiting within our police, it would be better to know for sure. To begin to know, I'd like Chief Alberti to respond to community demands made by ACON, December, January, and called for by 160 people in the change.org petition. You know, I'd be listening to hear him condemn the violence, disavow the thin blue line flag, and ban it from the department. Hear that he's talking to his force about how white supremacy will not be tolerated, and instruct the EPD to cooperate more fully with producing documents requested by the mayor's working group, ACON, probably other community groups. I hope to hear equally strong statements from.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Yep.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Next person is Vicki Elson.
I also want to remind everyone that we have about 5 minutes left of public speak, and I see a lot of hands up. We're not going to get to all of you. So please, we have another meeting in 2 weeks. Please come back. But we do have some business we need to conduct tonight. So thank you.
Then
As
I'll,
I said, Vicki Elson is next.
okay, I'll just make it very brief. I was thrilled today when the nuclear football left the possession of ex-President Trump. And I am delighted on the same day to be congratulating Mayor LaChapelle and the other members of the city council who've done, like Mr. Rist, who've been doing great work at the city level to get rid of nuclear weapons from the world forever. We're making headway. It's a really exciting week with the treaty entering into force in 50 countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vicki.
You want one more, Madam President?
Yes.
Julie Schwager, I hope I pronounced that right.
Very good. I'll be very quick. I just want to echo the appreciation and thanks that Tim and Wallace and Vicki Elson mentioned in your work to get rid of nuclear weapons. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Another one or not?
We'll take one more.
Mona Scott? Mona Scott?
You're on mute, Mona. There you go.
Mona, you have to take your care.
There you go.
Hi, my name is Mona Scott. I'm a resident of Easthampton, and following up on the last two speakers, I want to applaud the action of the mayor and the council in doing everything they can do to work against nuclear weapons. And it's such good timing with this Friday being the effectiveness date for the nuclear weapons ban. Thank you.
Thank you, Mona. And with that, we will have to end public speak for today. But again, I encourage you all to come at the next city council meeting on February 3rd. Thank you. All right, moving on with the agenda. We have a couple of informational things. Barbara, do I need to read the election calendar or is it just?
No, that's just for information.
Okay, so we have that for the committee to look at. We also have received the planning board recommendation for the cannabis hours of operation. That I believe we will discuss further in the public hearing on February 3rd. Is that correct, Councilor Derby?
That is correct.
Okay, so I just wanted to acknowledge that we have received their report. So that will be more detailed in a couple of weeks. Are there any other elected officials who would like to make a comment at this time? Councilor Flood.
Thank you, President Coniff. I just wanted to take this opportunity to share with the community my COVID story. Unfortunately, 2021 started off with a positive test result for me and those members of my household. There were 4 of us. Luckily, it was contained to our household, but I really do have to share with folks that I had 2 weeks of really what are maybe considered to be mild symptoms that were very difficult for me. And I'm a generally healthy person who's been extremely cautious. So I just want to remind folks that as we've unfortunately just surpassed the 400,000 mark in this country of deaths related to COVID, that now is absolutely not the time to become complacent, to let our guard down, and to ignore the rules of masking up and social distancing and washing hands. I can tell you, I had a very difficult 2 weeks. I'm now recovering and feeling less symptoms. I'm no longer contagious, but it was not only a very uncomfortable time for me, but it was a very scary time for me and my family to not know how the virus would affect each of us, and then to not know who we might have spread it to inadvertently, and even to just lay here completely fatigued and wonder where on earth did I get it. So I just want to take this time to remind all my friends and neighbors to please remain vigilant, stay safe, don't leave your home unless you have to, absolutely. And if you have to, please mask up. Unless you have an overwhelming health concern that keeps you from doing so, it really is the best defense that we all have against this virus. So thank you for the time to share that.
Thank you, Councilor Flood. I'm so glad that you are feeling and looking better. So keep up, the masking and the hand washing for everyone. It really is the best answer at this point. So I'm glad you're feeling better. You look good. Councilor Rist.
I want to echo Erica's comments. My entire daughter's family, she has 6 people, have COVID. They have been struggling with it. It has, as Erica said, been a lot more than just mild flu symptoms. I was over there earlier before they were positive, so I had a scare and I got tested and I was negative. So given my age and given the age of others in my family, I'm grateful that I didn't get it. remember, everybody, it's not the younger people that we have to be concerned about. It's the seniors out there that you might transmit to. And we now have a variant that's much more contagious. So I know we want to support our businesses and we want to go out and try to help people, but I think the stay home edict, we're a red zone now. I think we need to be careful. We need to be really careful. It is extremely scary, and I had sleepless nights worried about my daughter. So I echo what Erica said. We need to be careful. Thank you, Erica, and I'm glad you're okay.
Any other counselors have anything they'd like to say at this time? Okay. So the next, there's a couple of things I want to kind of talk about and bring up. So the first one is around the creation of an ad hoc selection committee. As you all are probably aware, our principal assessor retired on December 31st. And we have had a job opening and a job requisition posted since, I want to say November 19th, I believe. And we closed that requisition on January 8th. We received 3 applications. And in the interest of equity and confidentiality, those 3 individuals will be separately interviewed by the selection committee. And the selection committee will be charged with then presenting to the city council their finalist or finalists, if they want to present 2 to us, at which point then we will question those individuals and then we will make a vote publicly. This selection committee will meet in executive session to do their review of each of the candidates. So I want to first announce who the members of this committee will be. They will be the entirety of the appointment committee folks. So Lindsay Rothschild, Councillor Kwasinski, and Councillor Flood will all be part of this this ad hoc committee. In addition, we're also going to have Councillor Rist as part of the committee. The reason for that is that he has kind of a long history, as you all know, with the council, and he has been through selecting folks before and the process, so he will be there. We also have the option of including someone from the public, which we are going to do as well, and that member will be Gwyn Morrissey. You probably all remember Gwyn from when we were replacing Councillor Lynch, former Councillor Lynch, and so she is going to be a member of this ad hoc committee as well. So does anyone have any questions before I make a motion to approve the creation of an ad hoc selection committee? Okay, I will make a motion then to ask the council to approve my request to create a assessor selection committee ad hoc.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Any further discussion? Barbara?
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Aye.
Erica Flood,
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. That committee, so in coordination with the personnel department of the city, the committee, and Lindsay, you're kind of the de facto chair of that committee since you are the chair of the appointment committee. I'll ask you to coordinate with the personnel department for the schedules of those individuals. The process we will go through, I'm not going to, it's kind of outlined in the document. I won't go through it, but we will have to open public meetings. We'll have to create a public meeting, immediately go into executive session, and then bring forth your recommendations. You may have to have 3 separate meetings for the 3 candidates. I will leave that up to you guys. All right, so the first meeting you will let the committee know. Thank you. Okay. That's that. All right. As mentioned, there is a resolution that Councillor Zaret and I worked on last week. And just to be clear, I know a couple of people wondered why we hadn't said anything sooner. We can't because of open meeting law. We can't talk about anything unless we're in session, and this is the next session we're having. So that's why we're talking about it now. I would like to, first I would like to thank Councilor Zaret for working with me on this. I also was a little frightened last week that I had COVID, so I was under the weather, but as it turns out I don't, but apparently you can still get sick without having COVID. So I appreciate his help with this. And I also reached out to Chief Bob Alberti on this. He fully supported it and thanked us for putting this out. And he wanted people to know that he supported it. So with that, I'm also going to request that we make this motion and we make this vote tonight without objection on first reading. So I will ask now, does anyone have an objection to voting on this on first reading? Hearing none. Councilor Zaret, would you please start the motion and the resolution, please?
Yes, in the form of the motion, I will read part of the resolution, and then President Coniff, I believe you'll wrap things up. So in the form of a motion, this is a resolution in condemnation of the events of January 6th, 2021 at the United States Capitol building. Whereas the fundamental foundation of our country's elections are based on democratic principles that guarantee that every vote is counted and assumes a free, fair, legal, and legitimate process. And whereas the winner of the United States presidential election process is reliant on the system of the Electoral College, where the winner receives at least 270 electoral votes, and whereas the outcome of the United States presidential election resulted in a popular vote of 81,283,098 votes for Joseph R. Biden, which is 51.3%, and 74,222,958, or 46.8% for Donald J. Trump, and Electoral College votes of 306 for Biden and 232 for Trump. And whereas despite widespread accusations of voter fraud resulting in multiple court cases, recounts, and audits, there was no demonstrable evidence found. And whereas the Constitution specifies a process of appointing electors, casting votes, and state certification, with final certification and joint session of the House and Senate on January 6th. And whereas 18 U.S. Code 23084 describes sedition as two or more persons in any state or territory or in any place subject to the jurisdiction of the United States who conspire to overthrow, put down, or to destroy by force the government of the United States, or to levy war against them, or to oppose by force the authority thereof, or by force to prevent, hinder, or delay the execution of any law of the United States, or by force to seize, take, or possess any property of the United States contrary to the authority thereof. And whereas on January 6th, 2021, a mob assembled in Washington, D.C. for the purpose of marching on the Capitol building with intent to do damage to government property and buildings, and to do harm to members of the House and Senate for the purpose of disrupting the certification of electoral votes in joint session. And whereas the rioters attended a rally hosted by the sitting president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, who is no longer president, and were incited by him and others close to him to disrupt the certification of the electoral votes, which had been duly certified by each state. And whereas rioters numbering in the thousands then descended upon the Capitol building and were met by a small, underprepared, and overwhelmed Capitol Police detail. And whereas demonstrations for racial justice this summer in Washington, D.C. were met with significantly greater numbers of heavily armed Capitol Police. And whereas rioters wore and displayed symbols of white nationalism and racism, erected a noose and chanted "Hang Pence" and other treasonous, seditious, obscene, and racist words as they gathered in force. And whereas rioters armed with various weapons, implements of destruction, and tools of restraint entered the Capitol, ransacked the building and its chambers, causing members of both chambers of the House to take shelter, barricade doors, and protect themselves from possible harm. Rioters looted the Capitol, desecrated historic monuments, and stole items from open spaces, hallways, and offices. And whereas these riots directly resulted in the death of 5 people, countless injuries, and significant destruction of government property. And whereas the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff unanimously agreed, we witnessed actions inside the Capitol building that were inconsistent with the rule of law. The rights of freedom of speech and assembly do not give anyone the right to resort to violence, sedition, and insurrection. And whereas the foundation of our democracy and the process of counting electoral votes from a legitimate, free, and fair election were disrupted and undermined.
Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of Easthampton condemns the violence that occurred during the riots and the attack on the United States Capitol building on January 6, 2021, and that these attacks were intent on destroying the fundamental foundations of our democracy and the legitimacy and freedom of our elections. And be it further resolved that the City Council of Easthampton denounces all expressions of racism, anti-Semitism, and white nationalism, both spoken and written, and the use of symbols, whether created, adopted, or modified, which represent racism, anti-Semitism, or white nationalism that were on display by the rioters on January 6, 2021. And be it further resolved that the City Council condemns involvement of any government officials or agencies in the planning, promotion, or execution of these attacks, and that these are considered acts of sedition and domestic terrorism. And be it further resolved that the City Council of Easthampton supports peaceful expression of free speech and the right to assemble, upholds the fundamental tenets of our democracy and the Constitution of the United States, and furthermore accepts the conclusive results of a free and fair presidential election. Can I get a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the resolution. I also want to give you an opportunity on the council now. If you would like to make any changes to this resolution, now would be the time to do so. Councilor Rist?
I do not want to make any changes. I rise tonight to fully support this resolution, condemning the insurrection of January 6th and the actions of white supremacists on that day in our capital. It was horrible. I do note in President Conniff's letter that Police Chief Alberti signed on to this resolution, and I'm grateful for that. I just want to ask that if any city councilor has a concern or question regarding any issue in the police department, that they feel free to call Chief Alberti, as he will indeed answer the phone for any councilor. The only way forward in these troubled, polarized times in Easthampton is through dialogue. Let's try to have some dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rist. Councilor Rothschild.
I just want to say that I also fully support this. I think it's important that we make a strong statement. So thank you for the hard work that you put into writing this resolution. I do have a question though, in terms of, do you know where is the carving with the thin blue line still hanging in our police department?
It is not. It never was.
Thank you.
It never
Okay.
was.
Thank you. I don't know if that's clear in the community, so it'd be good to have that more publicized.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Zarrett.
I just wanted to say, President Conniff, it was a pleasure working with you on this and collaborating with you. I think that there are some questions about transparency, and I agree with you that because of open meeting laws, sometimes the way things unfold are not completely clear. The moment that these attacks in the Capitol took place, one of my first phone calls was to the chief to decry the involvement of a variety of municipal officials and department members that we were seeing from across the country, and sharing our mutual disgust for this event. I also had the opportunity to check in with other department heads as well, just to see how they were doing and express my dismay to see other departments across the country with involvement. It was a pleasure again to work with you on this, and I'm glad that we have the support of our Chief of Law Enforcement on this.
Councilor Gomez and then Councilor Derby.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you both, Councilor Zarrett, and thank you, Madam President, for this resolution. I think the message that we're sending is clear. We are not tolerating anything similar to what happened 2 weeks ago, and thank you. Uh, but I just want to add something else. Today, we have, I think, a lot of hope. It's a lot of hope because we have a new president. But that doesn't mean that we change the page. The page is still the same, just with another leader. So racism is real, white supremacy is real, and a lot of symbols are real, and that we have to keep fighting to rid of them. Our community suffered for 4 years, and I hope we today we start going to the right direction. Again, thank you for this resolution, and what happened 2 weeks ago was unacceptable.
Thank you, Councilor Gomez. Councilor Derby, and then
Thank you, Madam
Councilor
President.
Krasinski.
Thank you. So I appreciate you guys putting this forward. I think it was well written and really is a good forceful statement. And I think that, you know, while we focus on some of the bad actors that obviously all of them on January 6th were bad actors that were going into the building and causing destruction. But I think that, you know, one of the things we need to recognize, and it wasn't stated in the resolution, is there's a reason why, you know, almost 50% of the country believes in a completely alternate set of reality. And I think that's something that we need to address. We need to say out loud that, you know, we can have our opinions and we can have our, you know, our disagreements, but we can't have alternate sets of facts. And the fact is, you know, almost 50% of the population is getting their information from sources that are not accurate, from sources that are not vetted, from sources that are not written by, you know, professionals and that have integrity. And I think it's important to recognize the difference of information that people are getting. And you know, it's like, it hurts my soul to know that, you know, people that I was friends with in Easthampton have bought into the, you know, a lot of the stuff that they could potentially even could have been at the Capitol. And what is the root of that? Like, you know, and I think this really exposed the kind of a rot in our society. And I hope that we can address that and try to heal, you know, and try to get to the root of that rot. And I will tell you that my personal opinion is that root is information. And so I just encourage everybody to really be aggressive finding accurate information and to not believe conspiracy theories or, you know, things that are just crazy, you know. So anyway, I just wanted to put that as another piece of it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Derby. Councilor Kwasinski.
I'd like to raise my support and appreciation for each of the counselors who spoke tonight. I am wholeheartedly with you, in total agreement. It was totally appalling. And I never thought we'd ever see this in our lifetimes. What happened in Washington on January 6th. To the core, totally appalling. I would agree that anyone who participated in the breaching of the Capitol received the full impact of the law. I would agree that if there are police officers or any public employee, in fact, of this city who breached the Capitol, that they received the full impact of the law. That we've had 2 weeks without a meeting just happened to be a matter of timing. And we are bringing this resolution forward. I congratulate those who wrote the resolution and for all of us who will be thinking about how we can work together to better our community and our nation.
Thank you. Anyone else from the council? Councilor Flood.
I just want to rise in support of this as well and thank you, Madam President and Councilor Zaret, for the hard work that you've done bringing this resolution forward for all of us. I want to just echo what Councilor Riss said, dialogue, and as Councilor Derby pointed out, facts. Those are really important. And I think it's the most important thing in this community that we can commit to in order to bring about unity. And in an email today, I said to somebody, I really hope that just what we can do here in our community is the small work that feeds into the larger. You know, we have to start where we are, and having dialogue with our neighbors and with our department heads and with those around us. That's the most important thing we can do right now. So thank you for your hard work on all of this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I saw Counselor Zaret and then Counselor Rothschild.
I just want to say just a couple of quick things, President Coniff. One, I want to say a name, and that name's Eugene Goodman. And I think that we've all read about his heroic acts during the attack on the Capitol and the breach of the Capitol, having the thought in the midst of the fray and the pumping adrenaline to realize that the Senate chambers were open and to lead a mob away from the Senate chambers as a decoy. It was a moment of incredible bravery. And apparently he was named today the acting deputy sergeant of arms and took place in the inauguration. I also just wanted to recommend that I think it's the most recent episode of Radiolab. Has a very good recap of the events that took place and the work of the Capitol Police, who I do believe that despite having bad leadership and being poorly supported, did a very good job. There's some very disturbing images of what took place in the tunnel or the pathway, the corridor that leads into the Capitol, of Capitol Police trying to hold back these hordes of people yelling heave ho, pushing on them, and the story of a Capitol officer who was pinned against the door and almost crushed to death, and his story pleading to this murderous mob that he has a family and kids to try to get out of there. And just that I'm thankful also that despite the fact that our FBI, I think, was somewhat hampered by our most recent commander-in-chief, or our past commander-in-chief now, it has been heartening to see the hundreds of arrests that have been made, and hopefully justice will be done. And I'll also say that it was difficult to see people who supposedly claim that they support law enforcement on the side of wrong, waving flags, claiming to support law enforcement, but smashing it over the heads of the Capitol Police. And it's disgusting. And I think we know kind of where those people stand now. And it's kind of time to really draw a line between who really is on the side of what's right and good and who isn't. So again, Councilor Coniff, thank you for allowing me to work on this with you. And I'm glad we put this forward.
Counselor Rothschild?
I just want to bring up the issue of symbols again, and find a way in our community to have conversations about them without it becoming kind of blocking in your ground. Because it's great that we're making this large statement as a council, but the real work to do is here. And when a community says that a certain symbol, that it makes them feel uncomfortable or threatened because that same symbol has been used in riots like we saw in Washington alongside white supremacist symbols, or as anti-Black Lives Matter symbols. And those symbols are used on t-shirts or other things by our local law enforcement. I'm not saying our local law enforcement is racist. I'm saying when someone uses a symbol or says something or uses a slang towards another group, and that group says, hey, wait a minute, this makes us feel a certain way. Can we make space for that dialogue so it doesn't become, so we can listen? And if something makes someone feel bad, someone makes someone feel uncomfortable and threatened, even if that's not the intent of the person using the symbol or that's not the meaning they have behind it, can we find a place for those conversations? Can we understand that marginalized people need to feel safe? And if it means we have to sacrifice wearing something on our t-shirt, is that okay? I mean, my brother came home with a swastika drawn on his hand, and the person who drew it on him on the bus, he said, well, that's not what it originally meant. That's not what it means to me. Well, I don't care. It shook our family and it was scary. So you have to think about what things mean to people. And our highest feeling should be, let's feel safe. In my article, I'm going to address it because Councilor Riss brought it up sideways, but you said, my article was not about Chief Alberti or Easthampton. It was about a pattern across the country. And I feel like I should be able to speak to these issues without being called anti-police, because I'm not anti-police. I'm just asking for a certain kind of leadership that I would like. And people ask me of the same. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rothschild. Anyone else before we vote on the resolution? Okay, Barbara?
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Aye.
Erica Flood,
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Really good conversation. Appreciate passing it on first read. The third thing that is on my personal agenda today is some of us, perhaps all of us, have received various inquiries, phone calls, emails regarding school internet access as well as school meals. Sometimes they are the same topic and sometimes they're separate topics, but it all comes down to equity, and it all comes down to, are we serving the students and the children in this community equitably and completely through our school system and the school food and the school internet access. Certainly the times are very challenging right now in terms of a pandemic, and that is hard, and it's very hard. And so one of the unique opportunities as a city council that we have is to request that department heads come before us and respond to questions that we have. And so I requested that Dr. Leclerc and the chair of the school committee come to this meeting tonight. I thank you both for being here. I know it's a long meeting, and first I told you to come at 6, then 6:30, then 7, and here we are at 7:30. So thank you for hanging in there. So what we presented a number of questions to Dr. Leclerc and to Chair Krasinski, and I would like at this point, kind of what I'd like to have is Dr. Leclerc, if you could kind of walk through the questions and your answers, and then I will open it up to the city council to ask additional questions, clarifying questions, and then perhaps we can have a dialogue. I also want to be clear that the questions that were asked, some of them sound incredibly mundane, and there could be like, why did you ask that question? Some of these were very foundational, just to get data so that we understood how many we were talking about. That was kind of the impetus behind the questions that were asked. And so at this point, Dr. Leclerc, I'll turn it over to you if you would like to respond to the questions, and then if we have more, we'll ask them.
Sure. Thank you, Councilor Coniff. And I do want to just let everyone know that I also have my team with me here tonight. So if there are specific questions related to certain levels, most of my team is here someplace on one of the screens, as are several school committee members besides our chair. So I won't dive too deeply into these. You can stop me if you'd like me to dive a little bit more deeply, but the first two questions I think are general information about the number of students we have in the district, how many students in each grade have absences. We collected some of that data for you. We didn't get to all of it, but I think we broke it down to give you some reference points. You can see probably some trends. Number 3 of these students, how many have been provided additional assistance with internet capability? We note that we've issued issued hotspots to 24 families, and 12 wireless access points have been issued to families.
to replace existing routers in the home. And we have done some support for families that have struggled to pay their bill. We've done that on a very limited basis, of course. And we have 3 ELL families. I don't want to get too detailed in here because of equity issues. I don't want to identify any families, but we have supported some ELL families with technology, and I think that folks on the committee can read through that information. How many students by grade qualify for school provided meals? That's, I'm not sure that we answered it the best we could because we do not have free and reduced lunch this year. That was set aside last spring because of the pandemic. And last spring, we applied for a waiver to allow any of our families that wanted to access meals the opportunity to do that. It was set to end in June at the end of the school year, but we applied for and received a waiver to continue that during the summer. We've never provided meals in the summer before, but we felt there was a need and we wanted to provide that service. And then we continued to apply for the waivers. The most recent one was this winter. We applied for a waiver, and that will take us through the end of the school year. So there's no one that qualifies for meals. Meals are accessible to students in Easthampton, or children in Easthampton. I should preface it by saying.
Dr. Leclerc, do you mind if I ask a question?
Please, go ahead. Yep.
Maybe up to the point we're at now. So if I'm a family and I have a 3-year-old, they're not registered in the school, I don't go to the school, is that child eligible? Can that child receive breakfast and lunch from this program?
Yes, and we've made that clear since March.
And the process by which I would not necessarily get emails from the school because you don't know I exist.
Right.
How would I know that my child can get a meal?
So we shared that information out in newsletters, and newsletters sometimes go to daycare centers in the vicinity of the community. It's on all of our Facebook pages. It was on the city website. It's on the updates that I put out. So it's pushed out in a lot of different ways.
Okay.
Madam President, Councilor Gomez has his hand up. I don't know if you could see that.
Councilor Gomez, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. I just have a question about how many students qualify for the meals. Thank you, Dr. Leclerc, for being here with us tonight. But if it is possible to tell us how many lunches the school serve every day, because
Yes.
it's not about who qualify for it, but if it is possible to know how many lunches the school serve every day.
Yes. We have actually, our food service director is on the call with us tonight. If I can call on Ken to give you that information.
Sure. Ken, where are you?
Ken LePage. He's putting his camera on right now.
I don't see him.
He's on here, Dan.
Yeah, I got him.
You can go ahead, Ken, or you can turn on your camera if you'd like.
He's unmuted, but we're not hearing him.
Yeah.
Check your microphone settings, Ken. Well, maybe he'll come back. He's trying to unmute himself, but it's not working.
So so I can tell you in general, in the spring, we were providing approximately 300 meals per week. That's not necessarily 300 individual children because they get 2 meals per day. In the summer, we offered the program and we expanded it to a third site in the summer for pickup. And numbers dramatically decreased in the summer. We don't know why. Some people ended up going back to work, putting their children in camps or daycare situations, etc. In the fall, we started off a little bit lower. We've climbed back up steadily as the winter has gone along. And I think we're up to about 300 meals a week again.
So 300 meals a week, is that 7 days a week of 2 meals?
Yes.
So an individual child, if they were getting the meals all week, would get 14 meals?
Yes.
Right? Okay, so 300.
And if Ken's on here, he'll text me if I'm wrong. Or he'll pipe up himself.
Would that, I don't know if anybody else has a calculator out, but that is 21 students. That can't possibly be right.
Well, then I must be wrong. Maybe it's 300 students. Let me see. You're right. You're right. It's probably around 300 students.
Okay, so 300 students times 2 meals a day times
Ken's here.
7 days a week
Oh, is Ken here? Ken's here now. He's
Ken.
going to tell me where I was wrong.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Just barely, Ken, if you.
Speak up, Ken. We lost you, Ken. Can't hear you, Ken. Now you're connecting again. Try it now, Ken. Unmute yourself, Ken.
Dan. I think he's aware of the steps he needs to take. It's not working.
Is that better?
There we go, Ken. Yeah, is
All right,
it
Ken.
Oh, about time. Thank you. Thank you for having me tonight.
So Ken, we were just talking about the number of meals that are available and provided to students on a weekly basis. Do you know what that number is?
Yeah, just to give you a little bit of some numbers. In May, when we were doing bus services, we did 18,200 meals in May. In December this year, we did 17,000 meals. So when we were doing busing and to now when we're doing a delivery service, it's very close, very similar numbers. So we average about 300 meals a day, and they get 2 breakfasts and 2 lunches. So we're doing about 600 meals a day.
Okay, so that makes a little more sense. So around 300 students. So how many humans are you feeding on a daily basis?
We're doing about 300 a day.
Okay, that was the same number I got. So you win, Ken. You win the prize. Okay, so today or back in May, you were feeding about 300 kids, and it fell off a little bit in December for whatever reason. So, and how are those meals allocated? So I know you've got various vendors, I think, or support groups that are helping with these 300 or 600 or 18,000 meals. Is that split among different providers, if you will?
Not sure what you mean.
No, we have a contract with a food service provider. So we pay a company. That's what Ken does. He has employees at the high school, and they put these lunches together every day.
And what is that group?
Chartwells.
Chartwells. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Then where do power packs come in?
Power packs are separate. That's a private group that provides backpacks with food in them for the weekends. They piloted the program last year at Maple Elementary, and they do it at Maple and Whitebrook this year. And I think we have about 35 families that get backpacks of food. That has nothing to do with the school. That's a private nonprofit that wanted to collaborate with us, and we were eager to do that collaboration. So it started last year when we were actually in school.
And do you pay them as well on a per meal basis, or is it?
No. They're nothing to do with us. They drop backpacks off and we get them to the kids.
But how do they know how many to drop off?
They have some kind of relationship with the families or put some information out. I think they did flyers last year to.
Dr. Leclerc, can I speak up?
Oh,
It's
there's
Judy.
Judy Averill from Maple who does the power packs in her building.
Yeah, I've been working with Shelley Marsh since the beginning of this, and we put out a flyer to all families. We also include a link in our newsletters that go out monthly. They can sign up at any time. They just have to call our administrative assistants who work really closely with Shelley, and we just keep an ongoing list. So we add names as soon as we get them, and they start receiving them the following Friday. And it's all volunteer based. Shelley works with the food distribution center. I can't think of the name right now.
The community center.
Yeah, the community center, but the bigger one.
The Western Mass Food.
Yes, thank you, Food Bank, Western Mass Food Bank. So she's secured several grants. So this is all free to families.
And do you know, Judy, how many families? I think you just said 35 families or 35 children.
No, we had 50 last year, and I believe we're close to 50 this year at Maple alone. So, and I believe Center Pepin is doing it as well as White Brook.
And at White Brook, we also have about 40 families. We just added 6 more families last week.
Okay, so that's an additional 90 on top of the 300 that Chartwell's is providing.
And volunteers deliver those to their homes.
Right, but in terms of food in bellies, regardless of its source, 300 come from Chartwell's, and an additional 90 children are getting their meals through a different way, which is power packs. Is that accurate?
Yes, in addition to.
Oh, in addition to.
Yeah,
Right,
so
so-
those same families are also often picking up during the week.
Correct.
Madam President,
I'm
Erica
gonna
has
admit
her
I
hand
don't
up.
understand. I'm sorry.
Erica has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Flood. Councilor Flood, go ahead.
It's okay. I just wanted to clarify that 300 is across the school age population. So that's elementary, middle, and high school. Is that correct?
It's actually across, we'll feed any child. We say 0 to 18. Obviously, we don't have baby food, but as the example Councilor Coniff gave, you know, a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, if a parent wants a lunch for them, that's part of the 300 as well, even though they might not be in our school district yet.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Mhm.
And do they have to register for that, or do they just drive up and pick it up?
No registration at all.
Yeah, but they usually call in the spring. We gave out Dale Doran, the business manager's email and phone number, and people let her know that they were interested in getting the meals. So they did give their names, and they also, you know, usually it's just a one-time thing. I'm coming down, or I need. In the spring, they said I needed some meals delivered. How many do you need? I need 3 at my house because I have 3 children, you know, or, you know, I need to pick up for my neighbors as well, and they have 2 children. So we would just ask for that information. There's no income qualification. There's no private information that's given.
Councilor Rothschild, I see your hand.
Thank you for being here, and thank you. And I'm glad this meal program is happening. So thanks for the work on that. I just want to make sure that everyone's taking advantage of it that needs it in our city. What was I say? So a lot of people are chatting on Facebook and such that they don't, the whole signing up thing. So I guess a lot of people did sign up, but apparently a lot of people are picking them up that didn't sign up because there's all this discussion going, what, we need to sign up now. So I guess there just needs to be clarity. I don't know about clarity, but if you need people to sign up for more meals to be made, that needs to be made clear. It just,
yeah.
I just saw a lot of confusion expressed.
That's what it is. That's what it is. Yeah.
I'm also wondering, since it's a great opportunity for people to get fed from as young as 2. And like you said, we might be missing them because they're not in the schools. I'm just wondering if there's a way the city can partner, and the mayor's here too. So there's a way the city can partner to do some kind of direct mail to families with children to see if people are hungry and need food, because email and is not, or flyers isn't going to reach a lot of people in the way that direct mail is. And I just received a great direct mail about COVID. So cheers to public health and the city for that. So that's just, I'm just thinking of a way we can partner. I mean, these are all our residents. These are all our families. And just the fact that we have this opportunity to give people food 0 through 18 that need it, like, hope no one's not getting it that needs it.
Agreed.
Can I ask a question of Ken? Ken, if you're today giving out, my numbers are all messed up, but let's 300 a day or 600 a day. I think you said 600 meals a day to 300 kids. How much higher could you go? Are you maxed at capacity?
Right now we're working in one facility, and with the COVID and the regulations as far as 6 feet apart, we try to keep our staff small. So at the one location right now, we pretty much are maxed out, but I mean, we'll do whatever we need to do. We've had probably 8-10 different families in the last week that have come, and so it just keeps getting bigger every week. It seems to be growing, which is a good thing.
Yep. And I could be really thick on this and I'm not getting it. So if you are making 600 meals today, and some people have signed up, some people haven't, we don't know. If you were told, Ken, your 600 a day isn't enough, can you bump it up to 700, 750 a day? And you came back and said, yes. Do we need to, just by virtue of saying we need additional volume, is that enough for a family to just drive through and say, I need 4 meals? Or do they need to provide additional information?
This is what we do. We're ready for whatever we need. People should come. I wish people could just come to see what the team does. It's amazing what we've done. We've had to change our whole way of food service since March, and it's been incredible. I'm just so proud of what we've done, and under the circumstances, it's been truly amazing.
It is. It's great. I think I saw Councilor Gomez and then Councilor Rist.
Thank you, Madam President. Just for clarification, the number that I have from Dr. Leclerc is that we have 1,434 students enrolled in our system. But we are just feeding 390 child. So basically we're feeding only 36% of the students that we have. That is excluding the kids that are 0 from 3 years old, because they are not part of the school system, and probably some of the kids they're 17 through 18 years old, because probably they already graduate from the high school. So that number is correct?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Is any reason that the school didn't do any research to find out why people are not getting the lunches? Because we are only feeding only 36%, instead of 50%, 60, 70%.
I think that we based this initially off of information from previous years' free and reduced lunch levels. Our highest building that would have free and reduced lunch would be Maple at about 40%. The other buildings are much lower, in the 20s and 30% range. So this number that you've just quoted, Omar, seems to be in line with other years. Of course, we know the pandemic can create different situations. In putting this information out as much as we have, we've heard from many families that have said to us, I appreciate that the school district is doing this. I don't need this for my child, but I appreciate that you're doing it for other children. So we know there are many families in the community that don't need this. So it's, we've never been a school district where 100% of our students qualify for free and reduced lunch. That's not Easthampton. So this percentage seems to be in line with the data that we have from previous years. And are we missing some? I'm sure on any given day, we probably are. And there's always an opportunity to try to do more. So as Ken said, he's willing to take on more and more and more. My only caveat for Ken would be that if 100 people show up tomorrow that he doesn't have food for, it makes it challenging. And that's why, to answer one of the I think it was Councillor Coniff, it's helpful if we just have an idea of what's coming. Not every day, but just say, I'm interested in signing up for this or getting my name in for this now. And, just so Ken can increase the number of food that he's ordering or get in more staff so that he's prepared.
Well, and then I'll defer to the mayor and then Councillor Rist and then Councillor Zaret. But I guess the one question I would ask of Ken is, instead of names and addresses, can we just tell you, we have 40 people, 40 kids who are not being served today, so that would increase your number. Would that be a sufficient notification to you for additional meals? To just say we need 40 more?
Yes, absolutely. We just need a little time because we have vendors, we have to, purchase our food. And because at this point for the last 6 months, we've been pretty steady between, we know we're going to get 280 to 320 a day. So we got all our food in for those numbers. So something like that, we would need just a little, a few days, because we get a couple deliveries a week. So
I think that's
absolutely
fair. Okay, thanks, Ken. Mayor, I will defer to you, and then I will go back to the City Council for questions. But go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you very much, President Coniff, for giving me the opportunity. So Ken, I don't know if you remember me, but we worked together years ago at the Center for School Crisis and Intervention, and I know that your team not only works very hard, but are incredibly flexible. And I do remember just wonderful flexibility on your team to make certain days and times just great for our kids and families. That said, given Chartwell's accounts throughout Western Mass, I just wonder if I'm very concerned about, one, communication and getting the word out. Two, I'm under the impression that Easthampton Public Schools and the city are not only responsible for students who are in our public schools, but also any school-age child, similar to Child Find. And given that, can we have, I guess, if 100 kids show up, there's only 70 meals. Can we take or have an opportunity for there to be a sign-up list, and given your accounts in larger cities and bigger kitchen facilities, we can then get that list and have volunteers deliver those meals pretty quickly?
That's a good question. I'm sure we could. It's just we need some planning. Absolutely.
Okay.
Like I said, our team, we're ready to do anything we need for this community. So whatever needs to happen, we're ready and willing.
Great. Thank you. And I don't know if it's a question for Superintendent Leclerc or back to Ken. Do we have an obligation? Are any student 0 from 18, regardless of where they go to school or not, can they pick up meals?
Yes, we haven't turned anyone away.
Great.
We
I know. I just
school
wanted to get that on the record.
Yeah, we have school choice students from Holyoke that
Yep.
come and get their meals from us, where we've been feeding Southampton kids because their community didn't do.
It's funny you say that. We have a couple families from Holyoke that they don't like the food that they're serving in Holyoke, so they come here to get our food. So it's kind of
We don't turn away anyone.
Excellent. Thank you both.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I saw Counselor Rist next.
My concern is logistics because the purpose of this meeting is to try and get the word out, I guess, on food and internet. And on the food question, I remember picking up some lunches and food for my son's kids. He has 3 kids in the school system. And I went there and I was amazed, by the way, Ken, at how wonderful your people were handing out food at the back of the high school. And I asked, do I need to tell you who these are for so that they knew that they were kids in the school system? And they said, no, we don't need to know that. So it's obviously that you're trying to support anybody who comes. And if you're coming for food, obviously you need it. So my question is, if we do a better job of communicating, and this is a start, hopefully people who listen in tonight might put the word out. Going to, I guess it was Peg's, the mayor or Peg who said this, if you had a situation where suddenly you had a lot of people show up at the back of the high school, wherever you hand out food, and you ran out, taking their names and getting food to them would be the solution. I mean, how do we help you logistically? Because I'm hopeful that people get the word out, that we get the word out and more people show up. But I also don't want you to have to turn somebody away. So I'm wondering, is that the solution, getting their names and you deliver food? Is that what we're talking about here? I don't know. I'm just asking.
It's tricky under the waiver we're at. You really, it's kind of confidentiality, and you're really not supposed to get any names. So it's tricky. I mean, in our production facility, we have meals ready to go if we have 20, 30 people, 40 people. So we always have meals ready to go. So, hundreds of one thing, but like 30, 40 people, we have production people in the back that are ready to go at any time. And we do have product available. So putting them together, sometimes we tell people, just give us 5 minutes, and everybody's really good about, they don't have a problem waiting, but so we usually have extra product on hand ready to go. We don't want to waste, of course, which we haven't had a problem, but
I'm just concerned about your stock. I mean, if suddenly you have a large influx of people who find out about this,
like I said, in the last 2 weeks, we've seen probably 8, 10 families coming and saying, wow, we didn't know this was going on. It's now when we're in January and it's almost a year, it's just, and I think we've done a pretty good job of getting the word out. I'm not sure what else we need to do as far as getting the word out.
Counselor Zaret has had his hands up, and then I'll go to Counselor Rothschild.
Thank you, President Coniff. And actually, where Ken left off kind of segues well into the question I wanted to ask. And first of all, I just wanted to thank the superintendent and Ken and the team for coming here tonight to answer these questions. And so far, it's certainly been very enlightening. And I want to thank the members of the City Council that invited them. So you've been asked, I think, some really good questions by us. And certainly you have had to rapidly adapt from a brick and mortar situation pre-pandemic to having to operate now in the setting of the pandemic. And I'm sure that's switched your operation significantly, and you've had to do that rather rapidly. It's kind of like going from running a hospital to a MASH unit. So we've kind of thrown a bunch of scenarios out to you, but what I'm more curious is, you're the ones who are implementing this on a day-to-day basis, and I'm kind of curious from your perspective what some of those strategic gaps in implementation might have been that you're experiencing, and where, us as municipal partners, city council, mayor, et cetera, what you might have identified where we can help you.
Owen, is that directed at Ken or myself?
That is directed at anyone who, I'll let you lead off, Superintendent, and then Kenneth.
Sure.
I'm just curious what problems you've identified and where you might still find that you're either lagging or there's gaps and you need help.
Yeah, so thank you. Well, I think that the question around, are we getting the message out to everyone? Does everyone know about this service that would need to access this service is absolutely a question. Could we do something more? If there, I would love to hear ideas, suggestions, because we've been putting this information out. And so obviously not, I can assume that not everybody gets the information. And that's on us to reflect on and see where we could do more. Someone made the suggestion of the postcards. That would be a wonderful idea. On the school department side, obviously, I don't have the addresses of everyone in the community, so that would need to be on the city side to assist us with that. The other piece for us is reaching the families that are having difficulty picking up the meals. We have a certain time frame that the meals are available, and we have reasons for that. We're cleaning the buildings. The building has to be cleaned. We need to have the building empty for a period of time before we have the custodians in to clean the cafeteria. So there's a rationale behind the time frame that we chose, but we realize that's not convenient for everyone. But and some people are limited to getting to our site or sites, and so that is a concern as well. In the spring, when there was a state shutdown and nobody was in school, we utilized our buses. But right now, we are using our buses to transport students. We have students that we run 4 buses a day going to our vocational programs. Right now, we only have 7 buses. And, our hope is that we're going to start bringing students back in the next month or so. So we need our buses. And so we don't have a means to transport meals to people, through our transportation system any longer. So I definitely think that that's a challenge that, if we had assistance with that, I think it would benefit people in the community.
I think I saw Councilor Rothschild. I think you were next, and then Councilor Gomez. No, move on. Councilor Gomez.
Just, thank you, Madam President. Just for clarification, I hear from the Dr. Leclerc's team that we feed some childs from Holyoke. Any from your team have the numbers, how many kids we are feeding from the Holyoke town?
I don't. I know that in the spring, we had some students that were school choice students going to school in Easthampton, but they lived in Holyoke. So they would be eligible to get their food from Holyoke, but they were driving here. So I don't know if it was just one family. Ken, is it more than one family?
Yeah, I think we do have a couple more families. With this waiver right now, anybody can go anywhere. I could go to Easthampton. The East Long Meadow. I could go to South Hadley. Unfortunately, right now you can go anywhere you want to purchase meals.
So people they don't have to register or give the personal information to go get lunches.
Absolutely not right now. The waiver that we have, you do not need any information.
Okay, thank you.
Right. It's just a reminder. It's helpful to have an idea if there's going to be an increase in numbers for Ken for ordering and staffing.
And that's fair. You have to make sure you have the resources. So if you're sitting at 300 kids a day, and we know that in the last month, through outreach, Lindsay, you may have a better number, but let's call it 50 additional kids per day, or maybe it's 50 meals, I don't know. But would it be sufficient, Ken and Dr. Leclerc, if we came to you and said, we know you've been feeding 300 kids, we know that once we get the word out and you are ready with your resourcing, that number will go to 350 a day. You're telling me that all we have to tell you is the number and give Ken the appropriate time to ramp up to get to that production level. And then we can just, through a variety of means, and I really do like a citywide postcard that goes to everyone and, you know, use it or don't use it. And then they can just, on a day-to-day basis, go in, and that's the notification that we've given you. You need 50 more meals or people or whatever. Would that be sufficient, Ken?
We'd be ready to go. Absolutely.
Love that answer. Mayor, did you have something to say? You're on mute.
I heartily disagree. I believe that we've had kids who have not accessed food for over a month. We should have solved this. Our bad. We had a lot on our plates. I do believe, literally, no pun intended, and I believe starting tomorrow, after this meeting and the work of a kind and Councilor Rothschild and other people in the community, we have the resources through Chartwells and using other cities and towns until we get a stabilized number to start this tomorrow. We don't need names. We've been told we need names. We have a waiver that is statewide. Enough. Let's put meals in the hands of kids. We have volunteers who will bring them to neighborhoods. I know other schools and districts, departments know that. I bought 3 vans with COVID money. School has one. There's a white van with 15 passenger white van that can be used and driven by any city employee. We changed that policy around who could drive our vehicles or not about 1.5 years ago. Council on Aging has another small transit van that can be used in the off hours. This can start tomorrow. And I heartily apologize for freaking missing the boat on this. But enough. Tomorrow. Tomorrow, 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 tomorrow.
Okay, Ken, you've heard it. So we'll get back to that, Ken, in just one second. I want to see if there's other questions from counselors. Counselor Peak and Counselor Flood. Peak, why don't you go first, and then Counselor Flood.
Thank you, Madam President. We've talked a lot about the food program, and obviously that's extremely important, and this has all been very enlightening, so thank you for your time. I know that we were also, I've heard some concerns about the sort of internet assistance situation. If it would be more useful to conclude the food thing and then move on, I'm happy to sort of table it, but I just wanted to say that I do have some questions on the internet front for when that, like, is this a good time or should I hold back and until we're done with the food thing? Does that make more sense?
Well, we can, I think the mayor pretty much had the last word on the word thing, but I do want, on the meal thing, but I do want to wrap, and yes, we had a 2-pronged agenda tonight for Superintendent Leclerc. One was around food. Food, I think, is really critically important. Internet access, also critically important. So what I'm hearing is that any family tomorrow can go get a meal. And I'm going to work under that assumption unless, you know, someone tells me differently. But I think that's what we've arrived at, is that families can go tomorrow to pick up their meals. And absent different information. So hang on, I know a lot of people have a lot of things to say. So let me just get my thoughts out here. So we believe, or some of us believe, that tomorrow, any child in Easthampton could go to at the appointed times, pick up the appropriate number of meals that they need tomorrow. Is tomorrow Thursday? Yeah, tomorrow. And everything would be fine. And or if we can't get it from Ken, we can get it from another community. So we're going to go with that because the mayor has decreed it. But I want to give Councilor Flood first, and then Chairperson Kwasinski, I'll give you an opportunity after Councilor Flood. So,
can I just say one thing in terms of the service delivery model? Is there currently being...
Excuse me, who are you?
This is Dale Durham, Director of Business Services.
Thank you, Dale.
The meals are not being distributed every day of the week.
Okay.
So the next day that under the current service delivery model that we've advertised and been operating under since March, The meals are picked up on Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Okay,
On Monday for Monday, Tuesday, on Wednesday for Wednesday, Thursday, on Friday for Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
okay, that's,
So meals would not be available again to anyone until Friday unless we change the service delivery model.
thank you. That's very helpful. Thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
Chairperson Kwasinski. Oh, I'm sorry, Counselor Flood, sorry.
I'm just going to lend my services. I do have experience driving a 15-passenger van. So once the mechanism for delivery, whether it's to neighborhood, like centralized neighborhood pickup spots, because I am hearing there are confidentiality issues in collecting addresses. So for instance, if Parsons Village could be a delivery spot or, somewhere in the Plains, I'm happy to volunteer to drive the municipal van. So please let me know if I can help in that way.
Thank you, Counselor Flood. Okay, now, hang on, Counselor Zarek. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Okay, I just wanted to make a couple of points. We have been trying to get the message out since March, and I want everybody to understand it's not a perfect system, but it's not just that we're not getting the message out enough. The need is growing. The longer we are in this pandemic and the longer that families are struggling, the more the need is growing. And what we're finding in the last couple of weeks is that there are families that need those extra meals and have not understood that they had access to them for whatever reason. But what is really important is that we have not been given a number. So if people are finding out that this family and this family needs food, we need to know that number so that we can give it to Ken and say, Ken, you need to do 100 extra meals as quickly as possible. He needs a couple of days. If we're going to do this straight from Ken's site, he needs a couple of days. If we're going to have help with transportation and by using Chart Pack in other towns, great, we can find those, but that is going to require us having some addresses. So I just want to have people understand this is a problem we've been working on for a long time. It's growing, it's not getting smaller. And I imagine as these numbers continue to grow, it is going to get much bigger. So I ask everybody, if you begin to get more and more of an inkling from this family and that family, call us. If you can't reach Allison, call me. If you can't reach me, and you should be able to reach the two of us, call another school committee member so that we can get that message to Allison and to Ken, and that production can keep growing. I just want people to understand it is not that we don't want to make more food, nor is it that we are not trying to reach out, but there have been instances where people know of a group of people who need food, and we are almost the last to know. We should really, since Ken and Allison are in charge of churning out that food, they should be really the first to know. And a phone call is pretty quick. So that's all I'm imploring any city councilor, anybody to do is pick up the phone and call us and just say, hey, we need 50 more meals.
Hey,
Okay,
Cynthia, we need 50 more meals.
we got it.
Okay.
We're hearing that tonight. But I believe, and that's why I'm saying this, that number is still going to grow.
Yeah.
I do not believe that that's going to be enough. And we don't want to make so much that we have food going to waste, because God forbid, nothing should be wasted now.
Understood.
But as those numbers continue to grow, please just call us and we will add it to the list.
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Gomez.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a few things. First, I just want to say that it's really easy from this side to say, please call us. But at the statement, you were saying that the school knew that we're going to have more people in need, but we wasn't ready for that. So I think that was a lack of preparedness for the next step, for the next few months, for the next week. And I think that the school department have to do the outreach to find out how many kids are hungry. how we find out was knocking doors. And of course, we went to the school committee to ask for some questions, for some answers, because after a year, for me, is you know what, it's enough. Is too much. We're spending so much money and all this stuff, and we have to take care of our kids. That's the reason we went to the school committee. That's the reason we're doing this, because after a year is if enough time to find out what is happening in our community.
Okay. We want to get onto the internet. Counselor Zara, do you have something different to add to the conversation? Because we want to get onto the internet thing right now.
I could send an email. I'll copy you on an email.
I see you, JP, hang on. Go ahead.
I agree. I think we could. I'll just send an email. It's a new question, but I for the sake of brevity, I'll just send an email. I'll copy you on an email to the superintendent.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Kwasinski.
Thank you, Madam President. Just as a practical matter, I've been told by the superintendent that everyone who has called in and said we'd like to have a meal they've gotten a meal. Is that correct, Dr.
Yes.
Leclerc?
Yes.
Okay. So it would seem to me reasonable. We don't know if the number's 10, 20, 50, 100, 200 people. It would be very helpful if folks could have a centralized calling place so that we could kind of be prepared for this. Is there a specific number you'd care to share, Dr. Leclerc? Is it Dale's number?
It's Dale's number. It's on our website on the under the COVID section of our website. There's a section on school meals, which describes what our meal process is for grab and go meals. Dale's number is there, both her email and her cell phone number. And I'll tell you her cell phone number now. Her office number, I'm sorry, 413-529-1500, and it's extension 128.
Thank you, Dr. Leclerc. It's not surprising to me that people would come up and say, geez, I didn't know about this. We have people who move into the community, tenants come, tenants go, people sell houses, buy houses. There are new people. There are people who've been here who, for one reason or another, aren't connected. I hope we're able to continue to get the word out. And I know all of us believe we want to make sure that the need is fulfilled, that every child has food every single night. So we'll do whatever we can to make sure. If there's someone if they can't reach Dr. Leclerc or Dale, please call me. Our number at my house is 527-0010. I will make sure that the proper people are informed and we're able to make the connections. I'm sure there are plenty of volunteers who'd like to assist with delivery. So I think this community can pull together and continue to meet the need as it continues to increase.
Thank you, Councilor Kwasinski. All right. If there are no further questions, I would like to move on to the question of internet. I know we touched on it in the first couple of questions. If you want to continue, so maybe I'll try to summarize what your questions were. So you have given some cellular hotspots out to 24 families who do not currently have internet. You've given out, you are paying for the Spectrum internet service for 2 families for a full year. Do you know when that expires? Is that through June?
Yes, it's
Okay.
into next, yeah.
While maintaining confidentiality, is there a reason those two, is there something about those 2 particular families that allow them to have that capability, and can more be funded in total?
So, what we're trying to do is really the customer service piece of our role in remote learning. And our educators are reaching out to families to find out what their challenges are. Our principals are calling families to find out what challenges are. These are two names or two families in particular that principals brought to me in the district and said these families were really struggling because of some issues due to the pandemic. They had multiple children in the district. The children were struggling. The family was at their wits' end, didn't know how to proceed. So I said, well, let's troubleshoot everything we can. The hotspots weren't going to work. Getting a new wireless router wasn't, we tried everything that we could, and this was really the only option that was left. So we said, well, in order for these 4 kids or whatever, however many children there were in each of the families to be successful, we needed to make this happen. So that's what we did.
Okay.
But it's through the contact from the administrators to really know the situation of the families.
Okay. You also indicate that 3 ELL families had hotspots and/or T-Mobile. I don't even know what those are, but
wireless access points.
Oh, thank you. I should know, but I don't. Okay, so not a huge amount of people from looking at these numbers, 30, 35 people-ish or families are getting some level of additional support through hotspots, the T-Mobile thing, and or having their Spectrum bill paid in full with, I'm assuming it's additional bandwidth that you gave them if they have multiple children in the home, because certainly the low level won't cut it. Okay. All right. You've also provided Chromebooks to any child who needs it. In your answer, and I just want to clarify this, you talk about there were kind of older Chromebooks that don't have fully the capability that is needed for remote learning, but that you had ordered 600 additional ones. So are the ones that were not great for remote learning, have those all been replaced with these new ones?
They're in the process of being replaced right now. It was primarily in grades K through 5. And so they came in December, and they've been configured, or they're in the process of being configured for our students. And they've distributed them to all the kindergarten students, and they're making their way up first, second grade, third, fourth, fifth, I think is going to be in another week or so. And then that will finish it.
Okay. And these new ones replaced old ones, or are they, okay, so they have a better capability, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'm gonna ask if any of the counselors, before I go too much deeper into the COVID funding that you may have received and so forth. I know Counselor Peak wanted to talk about a couple of things, so I'll turn it over to you, Counselor Peak.
Thank you. Yeah, so when it comes to like the wireless hotspot, are the educators finding that those things actually provide enough bandwidth to be like streaming classes and everything like that? Like, is that working out all right?
What I have heard, Counselor Peak, is that it's kind of sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I'll give you an example. We have some students that we hear from that are saying they're having challenges. They have the hotspot in their home. And sometimes it's a matter of, okay, where are you sitting in relation to that hotspot? You need to move closer. You need to move into the other room to get closer to that hotspot. You need to close out some tabs so that you don't have so many things going on in the background. So we've been working with students, and educators, classroom educators have like a set of questions that they'll ask students that are struggling with connectivity, similar to tonight's Zoom meeting. You know, there were people that kind of get on and off. A lot of people keep their cameras off so that they can hear what's going on a little bit more. So it's just a matter of troubleshooting.
Okay, do you mind if I ask a couple questions?
Go for it.
How much does it actually cost to provide one of these hotspots to a family?
I don't know that off the top of my head, but I can let you know. I can email you.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. I'm just wondering what the actual cost is relative to paying for a sort of low-level cable connection. Because my personal experience with those hotspots has been not amazing. And if it, if the marginal cost to upgrade to something more stable was relatively small, I might recommend that you look into doing that on a wider basis.
Mhm.
And okay, one more question. Do you feel, and I don't exactly know, it sounds like you laid out a little bit of what the process is, but do you feel that the teachers are having a good, are having success at identifying which students are having trouble here? I know I've just heard stories in press from other cities about students who have not attended class in a long time, things like that. Do you feel that you're having like if there was a student who was having connectivity issues or technology issues, do you feel like there's a process in place to quickly identify and respond to the needs of those families?
Yes, I absolutely do, Counselor Peak. As with anything, could it be better? We're always looking to refine what we do. But obviously, in the summer and into the fall, our teachers went through a lot of training. Last year when we shut down in March, it was crisis mode, obviously, and we did the best we could. But we really put a lot of time and effort into training and support for our educators over the summer and into the fall, as far as professional training and giving them the tools they would need to observe what students are doing. And I can give you an example. They have a tool called Securely, and that's a way for parents and our educators to kind of monitor what students are doing on their school devices. So they can kind of see, oh, Johnny's supposed to be watching this video, but I can see that he's surfing the web. And so then they can, make that phone call to the family and have that engagement. Our teachers are emailing, they're calling on the phone. They're doing a tremendous job. If they're not meeting with success in reaching a student or their family, then they work with the counselors who will then reach out and try to communicate with the family, try to see what the challenges are. Our administrators, it goes up to the next level, the administrators, if they need to get involved, why are the students not engaged? So I think that, is it a problem in other districts? Yes. Is it a problem here? Yes. And is remote learning equal to in-person learning? Absolutely not. And I've said that in school committee sessions. We would much rather be in person. Remote learning is second best. And so but I think that our teachers are doing a tremendous job, and I think that they would tell you that as well.
All right, well, I really appreciate that. And I definitely would be interested in getting some cost figures about the hotspots versus just cable, internet, or what have you. So yeah, I look forward to seeing that. Thank you.
Absolutely. I wrote it down.
Any other questions from any other counselors? Counselor Gomez, and then Counselor Zaret, and then Counselor Derby.
Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, Counselor, go ahead.
Thank you. A quick question. Do you guys know if a family of multiple students have a multiple hotspot?
I don't know of any that have multiple hotspots, but I will say, this is what I will say. And I don't know if anyone in this room realizes it, but we had a new interim IT director come on board at the beginning of January. And he is really committed to customer service. And one of the things that he has really been trying to do is for families or settings, and I'll explain what I mean by that, that are still struggling after we've taken some initial steps, he will go in there into the home or into the business setting and see what else can be done. For example, we had a daycare facility in the community that had about 20 of our students doing remote learning every day. And the students were just having all kinds of struggles, even though they had a hotspot, even though they were paying a good price for a lot of bandwidth with Spectrum. So he said, well, why don't I go down to that business and look and let me see what needs to happen. And so he ended up installing a few hotspots and I think an access point in there so that now it's running perfectly. But that's what he's starting to do. So for cases where one hotspot is not enough or they're still having struggles, those names are slowly starting to filter to me. And I mean slowly. I had one last week and our interim director, Darren, said, well, I'll go to the house and I'll bring some things and we'll see what works. But, you know, again, it's as we get this information, as it's being shared with us, some of it, and the one that I heard about last week was actually from one of the principals who said, no, I talked to this family. They're still struggling. This is, you know, we need to do something more. What can we do? So he's been going out into homes in between all the other things that he's trying to do. He can't obviously do that full time, but he is trying. And so we're trying to address challenges for families where one hotspot might not be doing enough if they have multiple children in the home.
Okay. I'm sorry, who was next? Was it Councillor Zared or Councillor Rothschild? I've lost track. Councillor Rothschild, you can go ahead. And then I'll get to you, Lori. I just need to get to all the councillors first. Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Rothschild.
Can we skip around to different subjects on this?
As long as it's either internet or meals, yes.
Okay, well, it's not internet, but it's question 2.
Okay.
Okay. I just, and I noticed when I went to the school committee meeting too, that the middle school numbers for attendance are better than the other 2 schools. And I'm wondering what's happening differently in that school. Why is it so different than in the high school and the elementaries? And is there something we can learn from what's happening in the middle school? That's a question. I'll just put that on the shelf. I also echo Councillor Peak's question about providing actual Wi-Fi. I think it's great we're providing for 2 families, but I'm sure, and that's very limited. And I just imagine there's other families that are in need, and it can't just be the families that are, you know, come forward. And I'm just going to put all my stuff together so I don't have to ask more questions. The other thing is I'm really pleased to hear that Darren is providing customer service and focus, but I still want to know who's setting the technology vision for the district. And we've been in a vacuum of leadership. I've said this in the school committee meeting. I'll say it here. Our former technology director was not a visionary leader for technology and education. In fact, he was a barrier to a lot of help. And he was definitely not concerned with equity. And now it's great that Darren's providing customer service, but who's providing educational, technology, vision, and leadership for the district? That's what I want to know.
Do you want me to address those now? I'll start with the Whitebrook question, Councillor Rothschild. And I think we've had this discussion actually in our leadership team. And I think it's one of the advantages of having a team of teachers around a student. At the elementary schools, in comparison, a child has a 3rd grade teacher, and that's really their teacher for the day. At the middle school, there's a group of teachers that are around a child. And I really think that the focus at the middle school, it's really been something that they have really strived to achieve, is really make sure that they have connection with every single child. And they have 2 counselors there. that I think also do a lot with the children, engage with the children. We just brought on counselors at the elementary level this year. We have one in each, well, we have two at the elementary level. So one that is between two buildings and one at another building. And so they don't have, I think the support looks different at the elementary level. And I think at the middle school level, it's really been a strong push. Not that they haven't pushed it at the elementary level. I think they have, but I think having that team approach at the middle school level has really been beneficial. Your second question was around families and the support for the funding their internet access. Did I capture that correctly? Okay. So, you know, the challenge for us obviously is it gets a little bit financial, and, you know, it's as you know, it's a tough, we're in a tough spot. I mean, ideally, I'd like the kids to be back in school next month. The reality is that's probably not going to happen next month. So how far out are we going to pay for the internet access? You know, it's this crystal ball of the pandemic, the unknown. And it does present question marks to us. The families that we did support, we used COVID money. We used a grant that we had for COVID, because obviously we didn't have a line item in the district budget for that. So we did use grant funds for that. We're still awaiting information on what this next phase of funding from the federal government will be. So, you know, that is something that is on our radar and what we will do with that. But I'm extra cautious because, frankly, I know once we get students back in buildings, we're going to need so much extra support. I want to make sure that we're able to give the students those extra layers of support. So I'm trying to be very careful with the funding that we have and the funding that we hope to get. And your third question was around setting the vision for technology. I think that there's a couple things I would say here. You know, I think right now, in the middle of the pandemic, we need to get through some of these crisis points. And I absolutely think that we should be setting a vision for the future. I think that we have a district improvement plan that's a 3-year plan, and technology is woven into that. I'm happy to share that out with you. I believe it's on our district website, but I can absolutely send it to you. And we take a look at that, and that does have a focus on equity. I would also say, as far as setting a vision, we have a pre-K through 8 leadership team that's focused on setting the vision for walking into the new school building in a year and a half, depending on what grade level you're at. So definitely our IT director is going to be, our new interim director will be a part of that group. And I think that we've put some things in place as far as the actual building and what's inside the building that will set the vision and the tone. You know, I think that we're also, and I kind of breezed over this at the school committee meeting, this is an opportunity for us to think about the restructuring of that department. And that's what I'm looking forward to. When our IT director left in December, we had about a week and a half to make a transition, and I didn't feel it was the appropriate time to post for an outside candidate. You know, I really just wanted to wait until things were in a better place in the world. And so I really just was looking for someone that could take on that role temporarily and keep the district moving and address the technology challenges that we had in front of us at that time. But those are some of the things that we're thinking about as we move towards getting over the next month or two and looking into the spring and what's going to happen in that department.
Anyone else? Oh, go ahead, Lori Garcia. Lori is on the school committee.
And unmute.
There
Oh,
you go.
I am muted. Okay. Thank you, President Conniff. I just wanted to offer thanks for this gathering this evening, to you for inviting our chair of the school committee and our superintendent, because it is so important to have this communication within our community. I would like to say I am concerned that members of the city council did not attend our school committee meetings for the past 10 months, where we have grappled with these very concerning situations, how to educate students in the midst of a pandemic. So 10 months of having meetings, sometimes twice a week, that were open to the public. We were then told last week that 2 council members knocked on doors. I unfortunately am at high risk and cannot knock on doors at this point during a pandemic, but I always answer communication. I can answer communication bilingually. And I am so thankful, as I said, to our superintendent and our chair of this committee, who has come to answer so many questions that almost seem to have us at the defense. What have we tried to do? As I said, we've tried to educate our students and keep our community safe. We want to educate all. We want to educate all of all economic means, of all races, all classes. We want to know if people do not have access to internet. We want to know if people do not have food. And we will do what we can do, but we need to communicate continuously, not just at this point on the 20th of January, when we are now faced with all these questions. And at times they almost seem like accusations. So I really want to bring this community together to move forward and try to provide the services that are so needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? I want to ask, I don't know if it's Dr. LeClaire or if we want to continue on this. I know in one of your answers when we talked about, like, have you communicated with Charter? You know, and I know that customer services, they're not the greatest. But I'm wondering if you are aware that we have a contract with Charter, and so they therefore are obligated to communicate with us through their government affairs director, and he is our contact. We have a 5-year contract with them. I believe it's 5 years. It expires in a couple of years, but we have a pipeline to talk to them through that contract. And so what I'm suggesting is maybe we could somehow begin those conversations. His name is John Mayer. Maybe we can begin those conversations to see if he has an ability to provide a package of internet access till June, a finite number. Can we negotiate some sort of a package with him? Because when I do the math, and let's say we're talking about high-end gaming type speed, which I have, it's $70. So you take $70 times 6 months or 5 months, and it's $350. And you multiply that by 20 or 30 families, it's still only $11,000. And so I feel like, and I apologize if I'm sounding accusatory, but and that's entirely not what I mean. It's born out of frustration, and I appreciate Lori's comment about we haven't attended any meetings, but you know, with all due respect, we have a lot on our plate as well, and it is not our job to go to school committee meetings. We have multiple committee meetings we have to go to every week. And I will say for myself, I've watched them on recording. So it's not that you don't have to go live. There's no possibility you're going to get city councilors to go to every school committee meeting. Not going to happen, but we do watch it and we do have questions. And, certainly it did get raised to the top of our plate in the last month or two, and we're starting to act on it as soon as we got it. It's not an accusation. It's our job to respond to the community when there is a gap, and it's all of our jobs to do that. So that was the impetus behind inviting you. I didn't want to invite you to the first one on the first of the new year, so I wanted to give you a little time, but I just feel like, all the money we've gotten from CARES, and I understand that I don't know how that all aligns and what it has been spent on, but that's a lot of money we've been given, and it doesn't feel like 10 or 12 or $20,000 to give kids internet access is a big number. And I just feel like if we could create a fund, and I know this will, there's a lot of things that go into that sentence that are not simple, but if we could create a fund where we could use that money to give to families who are struggling with internet access, just to kind of move things along, like let's get that noise out of the system, and then we move on to whatever the next thing is that has a lot of noise. It's not forever. 6 months at $70 times, I don't know, do you think it would be more than 30 families? I don't know, but these are the kinds of solutions I'm thinking of, and they could be completely off track, but I will be contacting John Mayer. I think Councillor Flood and I could easily get on a phone call with him because we're both with Easthampton Media and we work closely with Charter. So that maybe we'll put that on us to see if we can make some inroads there. And Councillor Rothschild, if you want to participate. But I think if there's something we can do that is different or maybe provides access that is not a hotspot, I think that's just what we have to think about. And it's not personal. It's not, from my perspective, it's not personal. You guys are all doing a phenomenal job, but we have a gap. And so let's figure out how we can fix it. And then we can move on to the next crisis that will eventually rear its ugly head.
If I could
Mayor, I
just,
see your hand
Mayor
up.
has her hand up.
I understand that. Thank you. Mayor, if you'd like to comment.
Yes, thank you. So the contract with Charter is 10 years long, and we've just hit the 5th year. I have had conversations with John Mayer, not only on the behalf of the school district, but also issues that people have had. And he's told me point blank that these special deals are what Charter can do for our residents, whether it is resident, school, or school district, ended on June 30th of 2020. As far as Easthampton Media and the relationship with John Mayer and Charter, I do hope that he responds. But when we were putting in the new equipment in City Council, that Easthampton Media so diligently researched, I was the one who had to reach out to John Mayer to get the release for that work to be done. So I hope you have more better luck. The other, what we have done at the city side, and I offered it to the schools, is we've gone with AT&T mobile hotspots because we have an AT&T antenna behind the safety complex. The AT&T mobile hotspots, I've run my entire house on them, including, I don't know, my daughter's boyfriend, whatever he is, who is a day trader on Wall Street, has run his multiple hard drive, 5-screen day trading system out of my house on a mobile hotspot while watching TV and having 4 other computers running.
Do you know how much that is, Mayor?
Yes, the each unit is, each like mobile hotspot is $49. It's $20 a month for each one. I've ordered 10 And that deal ended with AT&T on Friday.
Okay, so $70, well, okay, so I hear you. Many hands. Dr. Leclerc?
I just wanted to say that we do have several hotspots that we ordered through some of the COVID money. We used up all the first batch that we ordered, so we did order more, and we have them ready for any families that ask for them. So I just want to relay the point that, you know, while we're always open to troubleshooting, you know, if people contact us, whether it's the IT department, whether it's their teacher or the building principal, and they express that they're having challenges with connectivity, we work on that with them. So, you know, I want to make sure that people that are listening know that we're addressing challenges that come up. And, you know, obviously we can't fix it if we don't know about it. But I really don't think that our gaps are as wide and vast as, but I could be wrong. So you know, I need to hear about it. But what I want to relay is that, you know, if we hear that there's a problem, we're doing what we can to address it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rothschild, and then Councillor Kwasinski.
Okay, this, I just wanted to say in terms of internet access, and we're talking about as soon as we go back to school, this isn't going to be an issue. And the fact is, it is. Online learning is here to stay.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And so it's not just on the schools, it's on us as a whole society infrastructure. I mean, we need to have, and I know Tom and the telecommunications committee has been working on this to get affordable broadband in Easthampton, but I mean, I think it's something we need to grapple with as a community, both smaller and larger, that kids are going to need assistance with internet access when they're back in the buildings. This is a clear equity issue. It's access to information, participation in society. You need to have internet. I mean, that's all there is to it. So,
amen.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from any other counselors? Councillor Kwasinski, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'd like to thank everyone for gathering and being willing to come here with an open heart and to talk about subjects that are of deep concern to all of us. I'd like to say that I think corporate America has a responsibility to help out in these situations. It seems to me that those who are making money during this time of COVID-19, and there are many who are making money hand over fist with their businesses, can and should be approached by a coordinated effort to assist people in this community who need the help. I think that I know every time anyone calls our household, they get an immediate answer and a response. So please, I would ask Dr. Leclerc again to help out with telling us how best to get technology and connectivity issues resolved. Is it calling you? Is it calling the principal? Is it calling Dale? Is it calling directly to the IT department? How can we help with that aspect and at least begin to identify if there are more problems than we're currently made aware of? Because we want to solve them. So I've asked that question, and I do have another question after I have that answer, please.
So the answer, I'm glad you asked this question. Really, the best place to start is with your child's teacher. They have had training in some of the basics. They're the ones that are going to say, are all your tabs closed? They're going to be the ones that are going to ask the simple questions. And then from there, if it's a problem within the family as far as we can't pay the Wi-Fi, we're struggling, we need another hotspot, they can absolutely, the next step should be the principal. And the principal will take all that information, will work on solving the problem, and will call them back and let them know. Beyond that, on our website, we have a tech support ticket system that anyone can use. Our teachers, our students, anyone can just click on it and fill in the information, and then that gets in the system. And that's how our tech department structures their day, what the tech tickets are for the day and the order of urgency. That's how they get addressed. So those are the 3 ways, but I would start with the classroom teacher first if it's a low-level problem. I mean, of course, you know, I'm in the office every day. People are around every day. You know, I was sitting at my desk the other day and a parent called and said, my student can't log in. Okay, let me walk over to the IT department and get it solved for you right now. So we took care of it, you know, because we're there. So, I mean, we'll address whatever we have to address.
Okay.
And
Councilor
I would imagine that much of this will go away. The need for just the stress that everyone is going through, whether they be students or teachers or parents, when we are able to tackle COVID-19 and get back, hopefully sooner rather than later, to a more normal society. I would implore everyone to heed the caution, to observe the mask wearing, to observe all protocols. If we could just get together for 60 days and not interact in ways that are dangerous to spread this COVID, we would not be dealing with much of these issues, because frankly, I believe we're going to need more money for our schools. And I'm wondering what's going to be coming down the pipeline with your budget and the needs that you foresee, as much as you can predict the future. And I certainly hope there aren't any detractions from your budget at this time, any deductions.
Okay, you know, I think, I know that there's probably other questions that are going on. Shannon, did I see your name go, your hand go up? Do you want to say, because I want to wrap this up and move on, so you can have the last word if you'd like.
Oh,
well, no, actually, let's be honest.
I'll give the last word to Shannon. No, so I heard somebody mention postcards. I know that a lot of the communication that's been going out is via email or over social media. For people who don't have good internet, they're not getting this information. So can we talk about the postcards and who would draft that and get it out, and let's make this happen?
Yeah, I think it's probably a bigger question. I think it's something that I say bigger question only because the mayor's going to have to pay for it, or Dr. Leclerc will have to pay for it. But I'm all for that. I think a mass mailing with information in multiple languages on that postcard would be a good place to start to close some gaps that clearly exist with people not being able to call. To your point, Shannon, if they don't have good internet, they're not going to get emails. They're not going to get notifications. They may not, their phone may not even work. So
they may not have a phone.
They may not have a phone. So I think we need to think a little bit outside the box in terms of notification. I do like that idea. And I think it's something that we need to have a conversation with, maybe offline with Dr. Leclerc and the mayor, to find out how we do this. I mean, we all get these mailings for other, you know, less critical things that we all get in our mailbox. And I think this might be a time when we can use that function differently. So yeah, I think we need to talk about that. I'll talk about it with some of my colleagues on the council and see if it's something we want to pursue.
So you mean I can harass
Funding.
everybody?
Say that again, I'm sorry, what?
You mean I can harass everybody?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Really no different than what you do now.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon. So I really appreciate Dr. Leclerc and Cynthia and all of the school committee and Ken for showing up tonight. I know this is really no fun for anyone, but it's important. And I think we have to use whatever tools we have. And one of the tools we have is to invite department heads to city council to talk about things like this. And I appreciate that you and your city school committee also showed up. I sense that this may not be the last time we do this. So I think we're gonna kind of look at all of the conversation we've had tonight and come up with different action plans and come back to you and say, what do you think about this? I also will ask the community members that are here to please let us know. You've been out there, you have done the outreach to a lot of these folks. You know, let us know what ideas might work from a communication perspective. And we'll work on, you know, some of the things that government takes a long time to do, which is figure out if we can get some funding and figure out if there's a way to bridge some of these gaps. But, you know, I think conversation, as someone mentioned earlier, is very good. And I think we need to do more of that. So I appreciate that you're all here. Certainly we didn't solve anything, but I think we came to a better understanding of what's going on. I do want to say that I think the meal thing can probably go forward very quickly, and I'd like to see that happen. But, you know, we'll see where that goes. I want to talk to some folks as well. Cynthia, yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to throw one more piece of information that you may not have gotten from school committee meetings because not all of you have been able to watch them. There is an issue with food. There is an issue with getting kids to have the internet, making sure everybody has access to a laptop. But just so you know, part of one of your questions was about attendance. And one of the biggest problems that teachers in all districts and all school committees, all superintendents and administrators are grappling with is there is an increasing toll that is being taken on our kids emotionally and mentally as we go through this pandemic. Hybrid learning is very difficult for some students and remote is easier for some. Remote learning is extremely hard for others. It's devastating for them, but it's comfortable for other people. And so one of the things I want you to know that our school district is working very hard to do is to track the emotional and mental health of our students. So when we have students who aren't attending school, teachers, and I talk to Allison about this all the time. I'll call her up and say, okay, are the teachers calling? Are the principals calling? Are the counselors calling? I want you to know there's a lot of outreach. I myself in my district, I spend hours and hours every day after school ends reaching out to my students and my families to help them to stay okay and to stay positive. So I just want to let you know that that's another piece that is going to be a major part when we come out of this pandemic. We are going to have to do a major fix for our kids mentally and emotionally. One, just to get them back to feeling okay, leaving their houses and coming out to learn again.
Right.
So you know, I appreciate the time to talk to the public about all the issues that we're working on, but it is it is so multifaceted that, you know, school districts are spending hours trying to reach out to every problem and to every student and to every family. I mean, the parents alone who have to help their children through remote are suffering. And they need support. So that's all I wanted to let you know. We're really working on that. And the best thing we can do is have you call us, talk to us, write to us, and reach out. I would love to collaborate and you know, fix these problems. We're going to have a major one with mental health, and I am concerned about that.
Yeah, no, I concur. That is a problem. Again, thank you to all of the school committee and to Dr. Leclerc and your team and your staff. You know, this is hard stuff, and I appreciate that you're willing to talk to us and work through the hard conversations, but we appreciate you. So let's keep talking, and we'll come up with some solutions. So thank you. I'm
Thank you
now
all.
going to ask city councilors, I would like to take a 5-minute recess. We will be back at 9:15 or 9:14. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your attendance. So we're going to take a short recess right now. We'll resume in about 2 minutes.
Okay.
Mayor still here? Oh. Mayor, just FYI, we'll segue right into your item when we reconvene.
I don't think she's at her computer right now.
Yeah, that's fine. Just waiting for Counselor Peak and Counselor Kwasinski. Mayor, are you online currently? Within the sound of my voice?
I am.
Okay. You may not have heard that when we come back into session, we'll start with your item on the nuclear thing. Okay.
Yes, and I have an additional item.
Was that cleared with the city council president?
Yeah.
No, kidding. I'm kidding. It's your agenda topic. You can do whatever you want. As soon as JP, Counselor Kwasinski comes back.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well. Give another.
You did say 9:15, so maybe give him oh, it's 9:15.
There we go. Boy, right up to the time limit, Counselor Kwasinski. You're on mute. We can't hear you anyway. Okay.
9:15, you did say 9:15. Right?
14:15.
Yeah, 14.
Okay, so City Council is now back in session. Continuing on with our agenda. The item we have now is Mayor Communications, and I know Mayor LaChapelle, you had an executive order you wanted to talk about, and then you had another item you also wanted to talk about. So I'll give you the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. The document that is in your packet tonight is actually the first executive policy order of my administration. I will just give a quick preface to this. Actually, it's in the order. I'll go ahead, and I'd like to thank the perseverance and resilience of a nuclear weapon-free Easthampton for working and being patient with me on making this executive policy order. It wouldn't have happened without them. That's saying executive policy order supporting the mitigation and abolition of nuclear weapons. Whereas the city of Easthampton joined the Mayors for Peace initiative originating from the mayor of Hiroshima seeking a ban on the use of nuclear weapons. And whereas of December 1st, 2020, 7,974 cities and 165 countries and regions have joined the Mayors for Peace in calling for the elimination of nuclear weapons. Whereas on January 22nd, 2021, the Treaty of the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons will enter into force as international law 3 months after the 50th ratification of the treaty. And whereas on September 18th, 2019, the Easthampton City Council passed a resolution urging the United States to support the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. And whereas the mayor of Easthampton is compelled to stand with the mayor of Hiroshima in issuing such executive order to demonstrate local sentiment that the horror of nuclear weapons is not seen again by any city. Now, therefore, it is and shall be the city of Easthampton's continuing policy to reduce and eventually eliminate any and all ties to the nuclear weapon industry. It is and shall be the continuing policy of the city of Easthampton that, to the extent practicable and permitted by law, the city shall not contract with companies that are directly involved with the manufacture or maintenance of nuclear weapons. It is and shall be the continuing policy of the city of Easthampton, to the extent practicable and permitted by law. The city shall work to eliminate and avoid any investments in companies involved in the manufacture or maintenance of nuclear weapons. Signed, Mayor Nicole LaChapelle, City of Easthampton, Massachusetts, as presented to the City Council on January 20th, 2021.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a very important, and I really appreciate you putting that into kind of codification so that we don't have to do a resolution every year. Thank you for that.
Welcome. Thank you. The second item I'd like to bring forward is around honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I will send this to City Council and School Committee, and we'll post on the website. So dated January 18th, 2021 to City Council from Mayor Nicole LaChapelle, honoring Dr. Martin Luther King, observed each year on the third Monday in January as a day on, not a day off. Martin Luther King Jr. Day is the only federal holiday designated as a national day of service to encourage all Americans to volunteer to improve their communities. Easthampton residents participated in a wide range of community service events, even in the face of COVID-19. Today, I recognize a treasure resource that serves our city with meager funding and boundless enthusiasm, the Emily Williston Memorial Library. I am grateful for the work of Director Nora Blake and her team, composed of Joshua Bean, Myra Cranshaw, Kelly Crisp, Emmett Flame, Angela King, Stephanie Levine, Maura McAndrew, Jonathan Smith, Patty Shaw, Greg Tessier, and Dave Wallace. The Library Board of Incorporated's tenacity demonstrates the value the library brings to Easthampton, and I now thank each corporator. Elizabeth Applequist, Jenna Barron, Jessica Berger, Susan Boss Brown, Gail Cannon, Sean Casey, Laurel Gardner, Seth Hardwood, Aunt Audrey Heinoven, David Ingram, Lori Ingram, Rachel Jennings, Caitlin Kelly, Joan Kurtz, Linda Laborde, Robert O'Connell, Joanne O'Leary, Lois Parent, Judy Poulin, Christian Reeder, Daniel Ritchie, Kate Rowland, Sue Waltz, Paul Wheeler, Samuel Williston, and Marjorie Zegg. Given the clear connection between the community and between the library and community health, I will be submitting a $10,000 supplemental appropriation from the Cannabis Impact Stabilization Fund for the January 3rd, 2021 City Council meeting. Support for the above appropriation from this fund includes the Center for Disease Control peer-reviewed articles, public libraries, Partner for Health, and Beyond Books, public libraries as partners for population health. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mayor. And one correction, I think you said January 3rd, but you meant February 3rd City Council meeting. So anyone listening.
Yes, I did. Yes.
Yes. So thank you for that. Look forward to having a discussion on that topic. Anything further, Mayor? Does anyone have any questions of the mayor? Seeing none. Thank you, Mayor. Really appreciate it. Thank you. All right, we've come to that point in the meeting that I know we all love. The committee reports. Councilor Rist.
Thank you, Madam President. Our next meeting will be January 27th. That's a week from today at 5 p.m. We will be dealing with the one item, the licensing board request, as well as the new business. I'd like to enter the new business to the committee right now. There are 3 items. One of them is the council budget, which was drafted by the city clerk, as well as 2 supplemental appropriations. I'll make a first reading. A supplemental appropriation is requested for $34,676 to be transferred from free cash to be transferred to FY21 32B Health Insurance Holiday Account, $34,676 for the following purpose: to provide funds for 1 week insurance deduction holiday in fiscal year 2021 per union agreement. The next supplemental appropriation I'll make as a first reading is the amount requested is $50,000 to be transferred from the Cannabis Impact Fee Stabilization Account, $50,000 to be transferred to the Clerk Records Management Phase 2 FY21 account of $50,000 for the following purpose: to begin Phase 2 of the City Records Management Project. This portion of the project would involve records work at 50 Payson Avenue and the Old Town Hall. The funding would hire an archives record company to rebox, index, and review records for microfilming and destruction based on a city's record survey completed in November of 2020. It would also include the purchase of shelving and boxes and the development of records database. I move that these two appropriations, along with the city budget, be sent to the Finance Committee for review.
Second.
Motion second to move the supplemental appropriations as well as the FY22 City Council budget to the Finance Committee. Any further conversation? Barbara.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Yes.
Erica Flood,
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff.
Yes.
I further move, Madam President, that the $50,000 appropriation request and the $34,676 appropriation request be set for public hearing on February 3rd.
Second.
Motion second to set public hearing for the two supplemental appropriations to February 3rd. Any further conversation? Barbara.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski, Erica Flood,
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
He's nodding.
Yes.
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby.
Aye.
Okay.
Madam President, that concludes finance.
Thank you, Councilor Rist. Public safety, I presume, Councilor Gomez, no meeting.
No report this time.
Okay. Appointments, Councilor Rothschild.
Hello. Yeah, so we had 5 appointments, I believe, reappointments. We had Chris Korzak and Paul St. Pierre, Ted Polakowski, and Austin Sanders. I communicated with all of them except for Austin. Ted Polakowski, he was fun to talk to. He's on the Veterans Council. He's been on it for more than a couple decades, I think. They haven't met since COVID-19. And so I was just wondering if anybody wanted to reach out to that group and if they need any assistance with Zoom or if they don't have reasons to meet. I mean, most of their business is around events, but I know they do maintain the monuments or place flags. So they haven't met in over a year, or in a year at least. So I don't know who would do that, but Barb, did you want to say something?
I want to say that they generally only meet a couple times a year anyway, usually like around Memorial Day and Veterans Day, but they don't really meet very often.
Okay.
The mayor has her hand up.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would echo what the city clerk said, and also our veterans agent Mike Slater is also. I can have him reach out and just double check that they don't need any assistance or accessing the Zoom, but they meet very infrequently.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had a very nice conversation. I enjoy the conversations. I get to meet people in the community and learn about the different committee work. So anyway, I move to confirm the reappointment of Austin Sanders to the Board of Public Works, Chris Korchik to the EDIC, Paul St. Pierre Jr. to the EDIC, Paul St. Pierre Jr. to the Parks and Rec Commission, and Ted Polakowski to the Veterans Council Committee, all with a term ending December 31st, 2023.
Second.
Motion second for the 5 reappointments. Any further conversation? Barbara? I'm sorry, what, Lindsay?
I didn't mention it was a 3-0. We all were in favor of these in our committee.
Okay, thank you. Barbara.
JP Kaczynski,
Aye.
Erica Flood,
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
Motion passes.
We just began the discussion of our agenda item about the appointment process. And we'll be continuing it. So if there's people in the community that are interested in the appointment process and want to learn more about it or lend themselves to the conversation, we're going to be continuing that conversation. New business, I move the following 3 mayoral appointments to the Appointments Committee. Austin Sanders to the Planning Board with a term ending 12/31/2022. Catherine Harrison to the Affordable and Fair Housing Committee with a term ending 12/31/2021. And Jackie Brousseau Pereira to the Board of Registrar Voters with a term ending 12/31/2023.
Second.
Motion second for moving 3 mayoral appointments to the Appointment Committee. Any discussion, Barbara?
Erica Flood.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Dan Rist.
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild.
Aye.
Owens Barrett.
Yes.
Peg Coniff.
Yes.
Salem Derby.
Aye.
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
JP Kaczynski.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. In terms of our upcoming meetings, my 2 colleagues and I are all available next Wednesday and Thursday at 6. So I want to have one of those dates for the ad hoc assessor selection committee. So I might want to check in with Dan and Gwen and see which of those 2 dates they're available.
Okay.
And then we'd have our appointment. Dan, you're probably available on Thursday, right?
Well, Councilor Peak is going to announce a rules meeting on that date. So, and I already have a finance meeting on Wednesday, so we may have to talk.
Okay.
I don't
Well,
know.
since that doesn't work, I'll just set the appointments committee meeting for Wednesday at 6. Is that a Zoom? Is there a Zoom conflict?
What's next Wednesday?
We have finance that night. Okay.
So we have finance at 5 and yeah. I can't guarantee that we'll have availability on the city council account, but we can look at another account if we need to. Does it have to be Wednesday?
Wednesday or Thursday, that's when the 3 of us are available.
Why don't you guys meet on Thursday?
Okay, Thursday at 6.
And then we'll figure out what to do about the ad hoc committee.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. And that concludes.
Okay. And you said 6 or 5? 6 o'clock?
6.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Ordinance, Councilor Derby.
Thank you, Madam President. The Ordinance Committee met last Thursday, the 14th. We had the pleasure of having Sergeant Ross join us to discuss our engine brake proposal. And so I'd like to just give a little bit of history on this because it's been in our committee for quite some time, and kind of the reason why it sat with us. So this was originally brought to us by some concerned citizens. I think Councilor Kwasinski was involved in this as well, around, trucks speeding using something known as a jack brake, and, creating a lot of noise. A lot of surrounding communities have ordinances around engine brakes, the use of engine brakes. But as we dug into this issue further, what we found that trucks actually have jack brakes as a safety precaution. And so using these brakes are a way for the trucks to slow down when they're carrying really heavy loads. And after talking to Sergeant Ross, what we realized was that the issue was not necessarily with the use of these particular brakes, but potentially altered exhausts that have been, customized, that are against the law anyway. And that the enforcement of an engine brake ordinance would be very difficult, if not impossible. And really the surrounding towns aren't enforcing it. They just have signs when you go into the community. It's not something that's actively enforced because it's very hard to enforce. And so, we wanted to make sure that we were doing our due diligence, and we, identified different areas in town that we thought would benefit from potentially this. But as it came to the end of our investigation, we found that it would probably make sense to not pass an ordinance that can't be enforced. number one. And number two, looking at using our existing enforcement to kind of mitigate what the real problem is, which is speeding and the use of kind of altered exhausts that create a lot of noise as well. And so, what we have decided to do is we've decided to release this from our agenda without prejudice. And before I make that motion, I would, give the other members of my committee an opportunity to chime in case I missed something. Councilor Peak looks like.
Yeah, I think that the point that was made by a couple people who weighed in over the time was that these I believe it's Jake brakes, the engine brakes that they use in a modern truck with a proper muffler system, they won't be making the sort of noise that some people are seeing as sort of onerous. And where that is happening, it could be older trucks, but it's often trucks that are intentionally modified to be loud for one reason or another. And so my real concern was with banning something that, when properly used with a modern truck, is a safety feature, because some people are being irresponsible and modifying their trucks to be obnoxious. So that was generally my concern, was the idea that we could be sort of punishing somebody for driving safely. So yeah, that was just sort of my part of this.
Thank you. And I'd be happy to entertain any other questions before I make a motion.
Councilor Kwasinski?
I appreciate your summarization. I think you characterized my understanding of the meetings very clearly, both Councilor Derby and Councilor Peak. Councilor Zarin and I had introduced this idea at the behest of folks on busy streets in our community. And we want to be sure that their peace is not disturbed by folks doing onerous behavior in our community. We were kind of pretty much convinced that Sergeant Ross very clearly knew his work. He was on a larger committee in the region dealing with trucks, and he is the truck enforcement officer. So I think he reassured many of the folks. And I just want to be clear that we would be taking this off without prejudice, so that should we find that there isn't proper enforcement, or if there are complaints, that we stay on top of it as much as possible during the times of COVID, of course. But it is a factor in the community, so we'll be watching carefully. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Kuczynski. I think that's exactly right. And at our meeting, we did talk to Sergeant Ross about enforcement, and he has been actively enforcing out in his pickup, pulling trucks over and doing compliance. And he even mentioned about potentially asking Chief Alberti to give him a little bit of flexibility in his schedule so he could be out at a broader range of time to be able to do this type of enforcement. And I think that, if nothing else came from this, that's a really positive thing, that we have a dedicated officer who's an expert on truck safety and compliance, who's really engaged and out there trying to make sure that people are following the rules. So I think this process did come to some fruition. While it's not creating an ordinance, it did have some positive impact, I would say. And if nobody has anything else, I would definitely, in the form of a motion, move to remove the engine brake ordinance from the ordinance agenda without prejudice. And this was voted 3-0, by the way.
Okay. Who did the second on that? JP?
I did the second if there are no other discussion on the matter.
Well, thanks. You took it right out. You took the words right out of my mouth. Any further discussion? Barbara?
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Dan Rist.
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild.
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Yes.
Peg Coniff.
Aye.
Salem Derby.
Aye.
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
JP Kaczynski.
Aye.
Erica Flood.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. So we do have a meeting next Tuesday, which is the 26th at 6 p.m. And this is an important meeting, as we will be discussing the changing Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day, and we're hoping to have some guests at that meeting. So if anybody's interested in that, that is the time to come, next Tuesday, the 26th at 6 p.m. So I think that's important. I believe that at the last meeting I sent the solar to the planning board and back to us. So we're just waiting on the joint public hearing that's going to happen with that. And we have the other item on our agenda, the cannabis time. We have a public hearing at our next meeting. And we did last meeting, we got a new agenda item on cannabis as well that we will be discussing. And thus concludes.
Thank you, Councilor Derby. Property, Councilor Zaret.
Thank you, President Coniff. So we just had our public hearing for the poll location, so that's off our agenda now. We met, I think it was last Thursday, the 14th, we met with Planner Bagg and Jenna Tatro to discuss the housing production plan, and the committee voted 3-0 to recommend that the council approve the housing production plan. I believe we will be setting a joint public hearing with the planning board on is that the second meeting in
That was my understanding, February 17th.
February 17th, and I'll present a report as well on our meeting. There were a few questions about the plan, mostly vis-a-vis how to make it actionable on the city council level. So I'll be reporting out on that then. And so I guess
public hearing tonight.
Yes.
Oh,
so in the form of a motion, I would like to set a joint public hearing with the planning board and the full city council for February, was that 17th?
17th, yeah.
That was a motion.
Second.
Motion second to set a public hearing for the housing production plan on February 17th. Any further conversation? Barbara.
Dan Rist.
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild.
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Yes.
Peg Coniff.
Aye.
Salem Derby.
Aye.
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
JP Kaczynski.
Aye.
Erica Flood.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Motion passes.
We have an item of new business. This is another petition from Eversource to install a jointly owned pole between two existing poles on Main Street, northeasterly of South Street. They have requested again that we schedule the property meeting with the city council meeting. I don't think I'll be able to accommodate that, but my view is that we were able to deliberate this in committee and await input to our questions at the public hearing. And unless anyone objects, my thought would be that the property could meet. If Eversource can make that meeting, which would not be on the same day as the public hearing, they can be available at the public hearing to answer any questions. I don't. So I guess that would be my first statement, unless someone has a broad objection to that.
Councilor Rist.
My only question, Owen, is we've had some issues with the geometry of that particular intersection. And I'd like to know where the heck they're putting this new pole and whether or not it'll interfere with observation. So I think you should definitely have a property committee meeting that has them at it to answer those questions. Although I'm willing to ask the same questions the night of the council meeting, but if there's some problem with it, I won't vote in favor of it. I'm very concerned about that intersection, as you know. So I think we should talk about it at committee level and get them there with a map. Where is it going? Okay,
well,
that's just my opinion.
There is a map.
There is a map.
Okay, that means I didn't look at my package very closely. I apologize.
It's in the agenda.
But I mean, to your point, I'll make every effort. I mean, I'll say a couple things. One is it's very difficult for a variety of reasons to accommodate having a thorough, robust property meeting before city council on Wednesday and having enough time without running into those constraints. So I will do everything I can to coordinate with the Eversource rep to discuss that. There is a map available for the plan. It's certainly something we could talk about more. And then if there are questions, we could certainly address them at the public hearing. I'd like to set that public hearing for the 17th, so that gives us ample time to hopefully maybe coordinate the availability of the Eversource rep for two separate meetings. So that's in the form of a motion. I'd like to set that public hearing for February 17th.
Have you moved it to the committee yet?
I have not.
Well, let's do that, and then let's set the
Thank you. I will. Thank you. I'll remove that motion and make a motion to move this agenda item for the location of a jointly owned pole along Main Street, approximately 183 feet northeasterly of the intersection with South Street, to the property committee.
Second.
Okay.
Motion second to move a poll request to the property committee. Barbara?
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Yes.
Erica Flood,
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist.
Motion passes. Councilor Zaret, now we can set.
Now, in the form of a motion, I'd like to set the public hearing for that item for February 17th, 2021.
Second.
Motion second to set a public hearing for the poll request for February 17th at 6:15. Barbara. JP, I'm sorry, but hang on, Barb. Yes, JP.
I just wanted to say clearly that since Councilor Rist had expressed some concern, if it turns out that we can't, the questions aren't able to be attended, or rather the meeting isn't able to be attended by the representative, then I would be fully prepared to delay the public hearing. So just to put that on record.
Okay, thank you.
One thing about the public hearings with a poll location is I do have to send out postcards to all the abutters. So once it's set, it goes out notice to all the abutters, just so you know.
Councilor Zaret?
I mean, I feel pretty confident that
we could set it in 2 weeks. You know, as we get closer to the 17th, we could set it on the 3rd. Could we, Barb? Is that enough time for notice?
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, you want to do that? Owen?
you mean pending a property meeting?
Yeah, I mean, we can, if it turns out, we can always set the public hearing for the 17th on our next meeting on the 3rd. We don't have to.
That's fine. I'm happy.
What I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I'm happy to withdraw the motion.
Okay.
Withdraw the second.
Okay. Thank you. I think, yeah, it's probably, I didn't realize there were those requirements, Barbara. That makes sense.
Yeah, the utility company prepares the postcards. I just mail them.
Okay.
So then my goal, I will try to get a property meeting then. Well, by next meeting, I'll at least know if we can have the rep present at both the property meeting and our city council meeting for a public hearing. So I'll get on that tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you.
And thus concludes.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Zaret. Rules and Government Relations, Councilor Peak.
Thank you. I saw that Councilor Rist had his hand up.
I just wanted to formally apologize to the council and to Councilor Zaret. I don't always look at everything in my packet. I just saw the map. I'm no longer concerned. My apologies to everyone. It was just a button that was pushed for me and I ought to do my homework.
Fine, no worries. Councilor Peak.
Okay. So we have not met since the last meeting. We're going to be meeting next Thursday. That would be the 28th at 5 p.m. And I see that we have one new item of business to discuss, which is a conflict of interest sign-off request. So at this time, I would like to make a motion to move that to Rules and Government Relations.
Motion is second to move disclosure, conflict of interest disclosure to the Rules and Government Relations Committee. Any further discussion? Barbara.
Owen Zaret,
Yes, sorry, switching screens.
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Aye.
Erica Flood,
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, and just one little bit of update. I did speak to the mayor about two of the items that we spoke about at our last meeting, those being the emails for committee chairs and the anti-bias training. And the sense I got from speaking to the mayor is that on both of those items, there was some things in the works on the executive side that might clarify some stuff, particularly with the emails and transitions and in the IT department. So I'm going to, we have right now deadlines for both of those that are in April. So I'm going to sort of work on chipping away at the rest of these items and come back to those in a bit, because the sense we got at our last meeting was that on both of those items, we just wanted to have a little bit of a dialogue with the mayor, maybe some department heads. So those I'm going to put aside, and I'm going to try to get to a few more of these items in the meantime. And that concludes.
Thank you, Councillor Peak. We have ad hoc committees. Anything, Councillor Peak, regarding ranked choice voting?
Only that we're meeting this week or tomorrow, actually, yes. But I would also say that when it comes to these ad hoc committees, we can't talk about it now, but probably going forward, it's occurring to me that the ordinance review should probably be on this agenda.
Good point.
So just a thought. But yeah, nothing else to report from ranked choice voting.
Okay, thank you. Senior tax work-off, lots of stuff going on there. Councillor Kwasinski, do you want to bring everybody up to speed with what we're doing tomorrow? And
Well, what we're doing tomorrow is very interesting. Yes, thank you, Councillor Coniff. We have, we're rounding the turn into the home stretch and have a report to make tomorrow that will be discussed, summarizing what has been done to date and kind of outlining some suggestions for the community. And we hope to have the mayor with us at that time. So 6 o'clock on Thursday.
okay. We will, and I don't think we're not gonna, we don't have to do a public hearing, but, or maybe we do, I don't know. But at some point when we review this with the council, will we set it as a public hearing so that the public can weigh in on it as we present it to the council, so that we can allow a dialogue, or will we be presenting it just from our committee to city council? Just for clarification.
I was anticipating that we would present to the city council directly, and that if there were further questions at that time, we could reserve the right to hold a public hearing.
Okay. That's
But
fair. And we'll
certainly
know.
certainly open to any other thoughts about it. I don't think it requires a public hearing.
It doesn't, no. Councillor Riss, did you have your hand up?
I just wanted to clarify, 6 o'clock Thursday tomorrow, not next week?
6 o'clock tomorrow, we have a meeting.
Just thinking about conflict. Okay.
We'll be presenting to the mayor our findings, and then we'll be presenting to city council. And just to clarify, well, we can't talk about it. Okay. Anything further? I think that was it, right, Councillor Kwasinski?
And this concludes, Madam President.
Okay. We have done old business. We have done new business. I believe that we have completed our agenda. Anyone?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, then I will take a motion to adjourn. Somebody did. Councilman
Second.
Barrett, and Pat, you don't get to do anything. Thank you, Pat. Who is seconding the motion to adjourn?
I will.
Councilor Peak, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Wait a minute, wait a minute. Barbara? I've lost control. You're on mute, Barb.
Peg Coniff,
Yes, please.
Salem Derby,
Yes, please.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Aye.
Erica Flood,
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Rothschild,
See.
Owen Zaret.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. This was another marathon, but thanks for hanging in there.
Good night.
See you later, guys. Bye.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.